Hello, happy Monday. Yay! Hello. It's a new week, you know, a new week for opportunities, a new week to catch up on the diddler. We're on day 18 and 19 today. Hello. Let me say hello to everyone. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for being here. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend. We got a lot to cover this week. So, welcome to my channel. My name is Melly. We cover all things true crime. Have a good time. And that's about it. All good vibes. Hey, Witch. Hey, Shay. And I see the Supreme View. And I see Eddie. Oh, thank you, Shay. That's really nice of you. The diddler. Nasty diddler. We are covering day 18 and 19. We're just going to read through the transcript on CNN, and then we're going to cover the new clip of AI. I know I've been covering it on my channel. If you missed yesterday's live, please go check it out, subscribe, watch it. Become a member if you can and support the channel. We have a lot of good times on members only. We covered some AI stuff yesterday, but there's a new release on Kid Cudi's testimony. So we're going to get through day 18, 19 recap and then watch that. And let's get started. Thank you for being here, you guys. Okay, so I know it's getting crazy all up in this trial. I feel like we all know who Jane is, but I'm not going to say her name. I just want to, or my opinion on that. I just want to keep it cool and respectful. So this is day 18. So that was Friday. To think about it for a minute. Okay, so day 18, lawyers discuss evidentiary issues before testimony begins. Prosecutor and defense attorneys are discussing summary charts of text messages that have already been admitted into evidence. Prosecutors want to highlight the charts for the jury. Prosecutor Maureen Comey said the prosecution team wants to include in the summary chart a photo of Sean Diddy showing messages between Diddy and Jane that was recovered from his former chief of staff, Christina Quorum's phone. Comey said you can see Quorum's hand holding Combs' phone, which shows Quorum's knowledge of events described in the text messages, and that Quorum had access to Diddy's phone. Yeah, I've mentioned that before, like how many people have seen all that content, right? And Christina Quorum is his chief executive assistant, I believe. So Jane is back on the stand. Here's the sketch. Hello, King. Jane, one of Diddy Combs' accusers, who is using a pseudonym, is back on the stand. Jane testifies that Diddy wanted her to be wild and sexual. We know that Jane dated another rapper, right? She said she was with someone in the industry. That person that's Sean Diddy's making a radical joke. Hey, Dodge, good to see you, love. And we know that Diddy was paying her rent. And we know that she was also involved in the freak offs and in the hotel nights. We know she has children. And let's continue. Wild and sexual. Jane testified she traveled to Las Vegas with Diddy around 2023. She flew on his private jet to get there, and they had a quote-unquote hotel night. She confirmed that she had sex with an entertainer. She testified yesterday that entertainers were other men she would have sex with at Diddy's direction. Jane said that Diddy used the term freak to refer to her, sometimes by using he wants his freak. She said it meant that Diddy wanted her to be wild and sexual. I don't know how I feel about that. No, I just started, Dodge. You're good. Video recording captures conversation between Jane, Diddy, and another man. Jane said she asked Diddy to allow the men he directed her to have sex with to wear condoms during a hotel night on several occasions. Diddy was typically dismissive, she said. A video recording of a hotel night captured a conversation between Jane, Diddy, and a man named Don. In the recording, Jane could be heard asking Don to wear a condom, but Diddy intervenes, expressing his disapproval. Wow. Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked Jane why she needed Diddy's permission to have the man she was having relations with wear a condom. Jane said she Jane seemed to get emotional on the stand and said she was still trying to process that. She said she didn't insist on using a condom because then Combs would be unhappy. When asked why there was a recording of the hotel night, Jane said, because Sean liked recording me and the entertainers. This is messed up. I can't imagine. I feel like asking someone to be sexual would ruin the mood, but who am I? Yeah. No, not down. Jane testifies about the times she cried after hotel nights. Jane was sniffling on and off as she testified about the 2 times she recalled crying after a hotel night. The first time she cried after a hotel night was early in their relationship at the Waldorf in Beverly Hills. She said they thought they were just going to have a one-on-one date night, but then Diddy said that they would have an entertainer and it would be quick. Jane said the entertainer was there for 18 hours. Once they were finished with the entertainer, Jane said Diddy told he had to leave, and she started crying. I just went through all of that and was feeling terrible, and he was going to leave me alone. Oh, Diddy's nasty. Jane said Diddy asked her if she was crying and looked disgusted. After that, he started smoking and playing music while she sat next to him, and he told her he would move things around. Jane recalled the second time she cried after a hotel night, but said it's body memory because she was high on E. She said she only remembers being at Diddy's house than at a hotel. She recalled she felt so high she embraced Diddy's butler. I just remember I'm having sex with Paul, and then I remember being in the shower with Sean, and I just started crying. Jane said, adding that Diddy saw her crying and told her, quote unquote, don't do that right now, because he was too high. Jane said she stopped crying when he told her to. Comey asked, quote unquote, who did the most work during these hotel nights? Me, Jane said, her voice cracking. When asked why she felt that way, Jen said, crying. It was just all me. It was just all me. So, did he really like to watch his girls be freaky with other men, or does he like the men too? I'm just curious. No judging. But I'm starting to question a lot of things about Diddy. Cried with satisfaction, according to the defense. Right. Let's see. Jane describes what would happen after a hotel night. Jane testified that after hotel nights, she and Diddy would typically go back to his house together. Jane said she would make sure Diddy was showered, and then she would cook for him, massage him, and put on one of his favorite shows. Then I would finally get to cuddle with him and sleep with him, she said, while choking up on the stand. She said she would feel really happy to end my night with Diddy, but I would really fight to block out just how sad I felt after. And maybe like degrading too, like how you feel. Like, I couldn't do that, man. I couldn't do it. Props to these females. I could not do it. I couldn't go back home with him and try to cuddle after I just had sex with a sex worker for 18 hours and I didn't want to. Nobody getting any cuddles from me. Jane messaged Diddy in 2023. I feel bad for her. I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights for you. Jane said in 2023 she had conversations with Diddy, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Love Daddy, whatever his name is, about wanting to stop having hotel nights. She read a lot of messages she sent to Diddy in late 2023 where she said she wished they could go back when they first started dating. I think she was dating him for like about 3 or 4 years. Ever since I opened Pandora's box, I've never been able to close it, the message said in part. In the message, she referenced being in hotel rooms, doing things that make me feel disgusted with myself. And she said that she didn't want to play that role in her life anymore. I feel it's the only reason you have me around and why you pay for the house, she tells Diddy. I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights for you. Jane testified that at the point she felt obligated to perform those nights for Diddy, she was scared that if she didn't, he would stop paying for her house. Jane testified yesterday that Diddy paid her rent and implied he'd stop if they broke up. Diddy responded to the text, quote unquote, girl, stop. Girl, get a job. You're in the industry. I'm not trying to be mean, but like, if that's why you stuck around, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to be mean, but Hello, Endo. Good to see you. The jury takes a break. Jane says she took rugs because she didn't want to feel like it was too real. Jane testified that she took rugs during the hotel nights because she didn't want to feel like it was too real. Jane said she wanted to make things easier, her voice breaking again. Jane recalled that she tried not to use rugs during these two different hotel nights. The first time she said she made the decision because, quote unquote, I was tired of doing that to my body. But she didn't like it. The fantasy of it all wasn't there. It just wasn't easy. It was just too real that this was happening, she says. I ended up asking for a pill, she said. Diddy gave her one and she felt better, she testified. The second time, Jane tried not to use rugs during the hotel night, which was in October of 2023. She said she really wanted Diddy to get sober around this time, and he agreed to stop taking substances for 30 days, but wanted to have one last sobriety party first. They had the sobriety party at a hotel in Beverly Hills, and it lasted 12 to 18 hours, she said. Jane said she didn't take any rugs, but Combs took E and Coca-Cola. Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked Jane how she felt after that, doing that hotel night without rugs. Jane testifies, I was disgusted. I was just repulsed. I was just so mad at myself for doing that. I just deeply regretted that. Does the influencer income must have been much less than I assume? I mean, she could have like found another rapper to date or something, right? I don't know. I feel like she was already in the public eye online and stuff. She could have probably, well, if it's who I think it is. We haven't said. Don't say it. And she has a baby daddy that is in the industry too. So like, I don't know. Karma's catching up with him for the past time. Hope he gets the book thrown at him. Let's see. Jane is back on the stand after a short break. Jane was emotional, and a court deputy passed her a box of tissues as she patted her eyes repeatedly. Diddy would call someone to bring him the rugs when they ran out, Jane testifies. Jane testified that when Diddy would run out of rugs during a hotel night, he'd call an assistant, a butler, or one of his security guards. She said they come up to the hotel room with rugs like Coca-Cola, E, Xanax, and what the heck is that? Moke? What is that? MOKE? I don't know. Like, oh, is it like MDMA and Coca-Cola mixed together? I'm curious. Let me know if you know what that is in the chat. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's see. Jane says Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Quorum, told her it was fine to fly with rugs. Jane recalls a time in 2022 when Diddy directed her to pick up rugs from security personnel at Los Angeles home and fly with them to meet in Miami. She spoke with KK, Combs' former chief of staff, and about picking up the package at Diddy's home. I asked her if this was safe and okay, Jane said, recalling that she didn't feel safe traveling with rugs. Jane said Quorum told her, quote unquote, it's fine. I do it all the time. Just put it in your checked-in luggage. I do it all the time. Jane flew with the rugs to Miami and later took pills with Diddy that she said came from the package she traveled with. A couple weeks later, Jane said Diddy asked her to take another package to Miami, and Quorum told her security would come outside Diddy's home to give her the package. Jane said she put the package in her luggage and flew to Miami. She then gave the rugs while she said were E to Diddy, and they took them later. Oh. Huh. I didn't know what that was. I did not know what that was. Thank you for letting me know. That's interesting. Jane describes the first time she chose who would join in at a hotel night. Jane said that when she first started engaging in the hotel nights in 2021, Diddy facilitated the entertainers or other men involved in the field encounters. Jane said she hated that men who joined them in the encounters were strangers to her. Jane said even though she didn't want to have relations with other men, she said she would at least choose who'd she be with. I just said to myself, if we're going to do this, I should just choose who was going to be on my body, she testified. Jane said the first time she was the one who chose a man who would join them in late 2021 or early 2022. She and Diddy were watching inappropriate videos of a man whose stage name was Sly. Afterward, Diddy was encouraging and flirtatious, asking Jane if she thought she could get Sly. Jane said she messaged Sly on Instagram and they started texting. They let her FaceTime when she was with Diddy. After the FaceTime call, Jane booked flights for Sly to visit LA from Atlanta for a hotel night. To visit Los Angeles from Atlanta for a hotel night with her and Diddy. She recalled she and Sly were both nervous when they met. She said it was her first time meeting an adult film star. That first hotel night with Sly went like a typical routine, Jane said, and afterward, she began scheduling him frequently for more nights in Los Angeles and New York and Miami. Diddy's travel agent would sometimes help her book the travel, and Diddy just always paid for it. She said she would be paid somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 for each hotel night, usually in cash from Diddy. Jane says she picked Sly because he was familiar with me and because he felt like a safe option for me. Wait, Diddy was saying he loved her and then paying her for this? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So is that ST? You know what I mean? Is that what that is then? Jeez. I'm shook. Jane gives more details about the encounters between her and Diddy and other men. Jane said hotel nights with Diddy were frequent between May 2021 and October 2023, either weekly or every other week. Jane and Diddy were on a break from October 2023 until February 2024, she said. After they got back together, the encounters only occurred at Diddy's Miami home. They were also less frequent, Jane said. Jane recalled only about 5 encounters with Diddy and another man between February and Diddy's arrest last September. The last encounter was in August of 2024, she said. Jane said she didn't know how many different men she had sex with during the hotel nights over the span of their relationship with Diddy. Hey, Winnie, good to see you. If they cross state lines, it can be. Yo, August of 2024. She was still with him and doing this? I'm shook. Did I say hey when thank you for being here. Wow. Combs wanted explicit photos of the men who joined in these encounters, Jane says. He's a creep. I'm sorry. I need to go out. Hold on. I just can't with Diddy. Jane testified she would FaceTime men who joined her and Diddy in hotel nights to engage in conversation and ask them to send her photos and videos of their genitals because Diddy told her to. She said she only FaceTimed the men when Diddy was with her and he would watch the call. Jane said she would text the men whenever she and Diddy were alone having sex. When asked why she did it, Jane said, because my partner wanted to see that and I wanted to turn my partner on. When then men sent her unsolicited images of their genitals and Diddy wasn't there, Jane said she was polite and flirtatious, but didn't respond to the photos on the same way as if she was with Diddy. Jane read aloud text messages between her and the man whose stage name was Sly from November of 2021. Jane said she was trying to flirt in the text messages to receive explicit videos or pictures because that's what my partner wanted. They let her have a sexting FaceTime while she was with Diddy, and after the call, Jane texted the man asking for his full name and birthday. She then wrote, "She's booking. I'll forward as soon as I get the details." She was referring to Diddy's travel agent who was booking a flight for Sly. In other messages from 2022, Sly sent Jane an explicit image and said he missed her. Jane wrote saying looking good about and two smiley faces, according to the messages read in court. She testified her response was more bland because she wasn't with Diddy. When I'm in my sober mind receiving these messages, it's kind of not something that I like to see. Ew. I'm sorry. The SEX worker was telling her he missed her. Ugh. I'm disgusted. I can't. Jane recalls 2021 hotel night when she was immediately repulsed by the other man. Jane is recalling a hotel night with another man in 2021. Jane testified she couldn't remember his name, but said she was immediately repulsed by him. He was sweaty, Jane said, recalling she felt hesitant in the moment. She said she tried to make it work, but was giving Diddy signals that she wasn't enjoying the encounter. Eventually, she told Diddy directly that she wasn't into it, she said. Diddy then got involved, Jane said. She and Diddy laid her down on the bed and began having sex with her. Combs excused the man and told Jane he had another surprise, Jane said. That's when an escort named Paul arrived. Jane then described another man called Michael that she had hotel nights with. Jane said Diddy introduced her to Michael and she took a liking to him. Jane said Michael was the first man who said he didn't want to be on camera with Diddy when Diddy tried to film the encounter. She said Diddy turned the camera off after Michael said that. To go to a lunch break. I can't get over this. Jane gets emotional while describing having a hotel night during her birthday celebration. Jane says she flew to Miami to celebrate her birthday with Diddy in 2023, but wasn't expecting to have a hotel night. When they were having dinner in their hotel, Jane said Diddy alluded to having a hotel night. The moment was a gulp moment for Jane because she wasn't expecting it. She says she just accepted it. After dinner, Diddy gave her a necklace for her birthday, and an entertainer she hadn't met before arrived soon after that. It was more of an invasive moment because it was my birthday and I didn't want to do this on my birthday, Jane said. She cried and she described the encounter with the man and Diddy. Jane said she remembered feeling robotic in the encounter. I just remember at this point in our relationship, this had just become so routine that I was just in the same rhythm, just like robotically, just the same thing, she said, crying harder. When Jane asked for a condom, Diddy was very upset. Jane let out a loud cry when she testified that she had backed off because she didn't want to sour the mood. She said, I didn't want my partner to be unhappy with me. Diddy, seeing her unhappy about the situation, gave the entertainer a condom, but he was visibly unhappy and disinterested with the encounter. After the man left, Jane said they moved to another suite that had a cake, flowers, and balloons, which Diddy had arranged for. He made the suite look really nice for me when we got there, Jane said. They were alone for some time before another man arrived, and they had hours and hours of relations, Jane said. But when the man left, Combs told her a third man was coming to the suite. I acted like it was nothing, but inside I hated it, Jane said, adding between tears that she acted that way because she loved Diddy. So he called over 3 men on her birthday. Wow. Diddy rubbed his face and eyes when Jane described hotel night. Before the jury took a break, Diddy Combs reacted as Jane testified about her birthday celebration in Miami and how she felt about having a hotel night that day. He rubbed his face and eyes when Jay told the jury he gave her a bracelet and flowers, but then invited 2 more men into the hotel room. Jane was emotional during her testimony and heaved more than once as she cried. Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked Jane more than once if she needed a break, but she declined each time. At the break, Jane left the witness stand in tears and was walked out of the courtroom by the prosecutor. This is the judge, sketch of the judge. Jane says she rejected a man Diddy invited to their hotel room. Jane described a time around 2023 when Diddy invited a man to join them in a hotel room in LA, and she rejected having sex with him. She initially tried talking to the man and let him touch her, but Jane said she knew that this was definitely not something I could fake doing. She then told Diddy privately that she couldn't do it because she wasn't attracted to the man. Jane said Diddy told her, "Are you sure? Maybe just a little bit." She went back to where the man was, and when they saw each other naked, Jane said she was really repulsed by him. When she told Diddy again she couldn't do this, his demeanor was agitated and accepted it, but he seemed almost a little confused by it, Jane said. This wasn't like a typical thing for us to have like a hiccup in the routine of the night, she said. Jane said they excused a man and another man came to the hotel room. Wow. Hearing Diddy's voice and audio recordings could be really impactful for the jurors. Jane explains why she set up performances even though she didn't want to. "I loved him very deeply." Jane said she recalls setting up hotel nights as a surprise for Diddy, who on 2 occasions. She said those instances were probably for special occasions such as Valentine's Day or Combs returning from a long trip. Jane said she could hear the gray lines in between his words that imply he wanted to have sexual performances. Diddy would say things like, "I can't wait to see what you have for me," Jane said. "I just knew what task was being asked of me," she testified. When asked why she set up the hotel nights for Diddy, even though she didn't want to, Jane said, "I loved him very deeply." Like, what does she love about him again? Hey, Dodge, you're back. Hey, Thomas. Combs paid the men who joined hotel nights in cash, Jane asked. Jane testified that when she saw Diddy giving cash to at least 2 men, they had sex with her. She paid 2 men after their encounters, but the cash she gave them always came from Diddy, she said. Sometimes after she had sex with men, Jane said she would go into the bedroom while Diddy said goodbye to the man in the other room. When they traveled between May 2021 and October 2023, Jane said she regularly saw Diddy with cash, and he typically kept it in hotel bedroom nightstands. Ever so often, when Diddy would run out of cash, the music mogul would call his security or former chief of staff, Christina Korn, to bring him cash. Diddy recorded sexual encounters on his cell phone and said the videos were just for him. Jane said that Diddy would record the sexual encounters she had during the hotel nights on his cell phone and told her the recordings were just for him. Jane said Diddy would record nearly every time she had sex with another man in front of him. She testified that she was always high on drugs when Diddy recorded. She said she was fine with Diddy recording the hotel nights because she was used to it. It was just part of what was happening, she testified. Jane said because she acted like she enjoyed the counters because I wanted to put on a good show. Diddy would regularly direct her what to do sexually during a hotel night. Jen testified she followed the directions on command. Jury sees photos of hotel nights. Prosecutor Maureen Comey showed the jury 15 photos that Jane said were taken during a hotel night. The public was not able to see the photos. Jane testified that each of the photos showed her and another man during a hotel night, and one of the encounters took place at Diddy's house. Jane said Diddy was present for all of the hotel nights captured in the pictures. I have like no words. Hello, Albert. Good to see you. Thank you. You speak so well, amiga. Thank you, Albert. I appreciate you. It's good to see you. I hope you had a good weekend. And thank you for the super chat. Really, truly. Thank you. Jane says Diddy became super defensive when she told him she was done with the hotel nights. Jane described another night that Diddy promised would be romantic, but ultimately led to a hotel night in New York City in 2023. During her testimony this afternoon, she said she flew to New York to visit Diddy after he suggested it, but she hesitant because he figured he wanted a hotel night. Diddy compromised her. Diddy promised her and compromised her they would have a romantic time, just the two of them. So she agreed to go. When she was midair on her way to New York, Diddy texted her about getting entertainment. Jane testified, I felt really disappointed and I just felt this weight over me. When she got to New York City and met Diddy at the Trump International Hotel, Diddy had her wait for him in the SUV with the understanding they were going to dinner. She spotted their hotel room because it was lit with red lights while she was waiting in the car. The jury saw a photo she took outside of the hotel with a red light shining out of the room. Jane said that at that point she realized Diddy's assistant must have been upstairs setting up the room for a hotel room. Before going back to the hotel room, they went to a lounge where they bickered. Jane said, I was bickering about just how I was done with this and I didn't want to do this. And like, why every time I see you, this is happening, she testified. Diddy was super defensive in response, but said they didn't have to keep doing it. In my heart, I knew he didn't mean that, Jane testified, because it still happened that night. Diddy gave her E, and when they got back to the hotel room, she put on an outfit Diddy had waiting for her. A man joined them in the room, and she said she wasn't into anything about this guy. She told Diddy privately, and he got agitated. So she said she messaged another man because she felt she just wanted to make it up to Diddy. Jane said that the man flew from Atlanta to New York that night. She said she booked the flight herself, but then Diddy reimbursed her. She said after the hotel night, one of Diddy's assistants dropped off an envelope with a few $1,000s cash for the man at the front desk of the hotel. Prosecutor Comey asked Jane why she felt she had to make it up to Diddy given their conversation earlier that night. Jane said that was a hard question to answer. I just wanted to give him what he wanted, and I wanted it to make him happy, and I wanted to just have a good upbeat night with him, she said. Jane confirmed that Diddy was paying for her rent at that point and that they had already conversations where he brought up her rent in connection with the hotel nights. Okay, what I'm getting out of this, and I'm not trying to be not be sensitive, but if that's why she hung around. Oh, I'm sorry, Dodge. That must have been an accident. I'm sorry. She just was in it because she, quote unquote, loved him and wanted her rent paid. Jane describes the health issues she faced because of the hotel nights. Jane testified that her shoulders and back would hurt during every hotel night because she would have to stay in certain positions for many hours. That's what my partner wanted to see, she said. She testified that she often got UTIs and yeast infections as a result of the hotel nights. She said she took antibiotics for the UTIs and she would sometimes tell Diddy when she had them. She said there were times where she couldn't fully recover from an infection before they had another hotel night. Sorry, Dodge. We have two different screens. It's like the live on YouTube and then StreamYard. So sometimes it gets messed up. Sorry. And I'm disgusted and horrified. We're feeling more compassion for Cassie, if I'm reading this properly. Yeah. I think Cassie had it bad because she was getting beat at every day and every turn she had with Diddy, but it doesn't seem like, I'm not knocking the abuse that Jane has experienced, but it doesn't seem like Diddy was, beating her in front of people as much as I think Cassie. Remember, Cassie would go places with black eyes and stuff, like award shows and all that. And she would hide out for days. I don't know what to think. Jane says Diddy demanded she put back piercings. I think Cassie said that too, right? Jane said she always had to have outfits ready and wear stripper heels for the entire duration of the hotel night. I would just always be on point as far as my glam, Jane said. Sometime around the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023, Jane testified that Diddy said he wanted her to get her nipples pierced, and Diddy's former chief of staff, Christina Coram, helped her schedule an appointment at a place Diddy recommended. What? After about a year later, Jane said she stopped wearing the piercings because they snagged on her lingerie, were bleeding and got infected. Jane said Diddy got impatient because she didn't have the piercings and eventually demanded she put him back in. Where are my piercings? This is the last time I see you when you don't have any piercings on, Jane recalled Diddy saying. I'm like, Hey, K-Rays. And people didn't help her. Cassie felt trapped under the violence of a much longer period. Yeah, 11 years. I'm so disgusted. I'm so disgusted. Jane says she told Diddy she wanted to stop, but he would get defensive, belittling, and dismissive. Jane said that she didn't know how many times she told Diddy that she wanted to stop the hotel nights, but typically it was in text messages. When she tried to tell him in person and over the phone, he would overpower the conversation and get defensive, belittling, and dismissive. Jane said she would often collect her thoughts in the notes application on her iPhone. She said it was the only avenue to get my feelings out and write my thoughts and my feelings. Jane said sometimes she got the courage to send her thoughts to him. Toward the end of the relationship in 2024, Jane said Diddy told her he never knew she didn't want to partake in hotel nights. She believed him at the time, but later reviewed her text messages with Diddy and came to realize she had been expressing those feelings since 2021. I had been saying the same things over and over again, she said. Okay, so if he wasn't holding her hostage like Cassie, why didn't she leave? I know abuse makes you like stay, whether it's verbal, mentally, sexually, or whatever. But I'm just like confused. Jane is reading text messages she sent to Diddy. Here's another sketch. Let's piss in this picture. Jane read text messages she sent to Diddy in November of 2021, in which she described feeling mistreated and needed a quote unquote breather. Jane wrote she was feeling some type of way and referred to a homegirl. She testified that she had just gotten back from a hotel night with Diddy, and she saw on social media that he was spending quality time with another female. I felt mistreated that I was coming there to do a hotel night, and when I was leave, he's giving another woman his quality time that I was like begging for, Jane testified. In other messages, Jane referenced hotel vibes and the names of two male entertainers they had seen. I need a breather and break from you. This doesn't make me feel good at all. Your true intentions with me are plain in sight, she wrote in another message. Jane testified she was referring to the hotel nights in those messages. Jane testified she once told Diddy he didn't want her, he just wanted the hotel nights. The jury is hearing more text messages that Jane exchanged with Diddy. Don't say you effing miss me and you're bored over there. Just don't say shit to me at all. You don't deserve me, Jane texted Diddy. Diddy sent her an audio message in response saying, you gotta believe this is the last time you're gonna be cursing at me. Diddy denied having sex with the woman Jane saw him with on social media and called her crazy. In the message he played for the jury, Diddy told Jane to go be sad. He also said he can have sex with whoever he wants. Diddy often called Jane crazy. She testified, it would make me feel confused, just doubt. Jane testified she didn't care that Diddy was with other females, but she said she wanted more time with Diddy. It was what they were doing that made me jealous. I wanted that time with him, and that's what I wanted from him, she said. Jane testified she was jealous of other women and how Diddy treated them. Growing emotional, Jane said, I was being treated like I was the only one who had to take this on. I had to take this all on, and they didn't. At one point, Jane texted Diddy, it's not me you miss or want. Jane testified that in the text that night, she meant, it's not me that you want, it's these nights. I think I know who Diddy was with in this social media post. I think it was Young Miami. Which, by the way, where is she at? Why aren't they going to pull her up to the stand? She dated Diddy for a long time, too. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor. Never the tormented. Oh, I like that, witch. I know the feeling of wanting to say something to someone face to face, but then later on, it's just easier to text. I do know that as well. Surely they'll call on the appropriate medical professional to tell the jury why the victims stay in violent scenarios. I agree, Dodge. Yeah, so I think that was like Young Miami because Diddy dated her too. And I'm wondering if she's going to testify or no. Jane says Diddy would tell her all the things I wanted to hear after fights. After the text conversation, Jane said Diddy FaceTimed her and calmed her down. It's something Diddy would do after having a fight about the hotel nights, which Jane said happened often. He would say all these things I wanted to hear. He would say that it's not what I'm thinking, Jane said. He would just downplay whatever I was freaking out about and that he loved me and he missed me and wanted to see me, she added. Jane says Diddy started dating another woman shortly after participating in a hotel night. Jane described feeling heartbroken and so cheap after Diddy showed off a new dating relationship with another woman after participating in a hotel night on her birthday. Jane read messages from February of 2022 where she asked Diddy what color dress she should wear. She testified they were also getting ready to meet up for her birthday at an LA hotel. Jane said Diddy told her they were going to dinner and then they would hang out and she wasn't expecting to have a hotel night, but a new man came over and she ended up having sex with him. At this point, I was really high in love with my partner and I was okay with it, she said. Soon after her birthday, Jen testified that she saw on social media that Diddy had started dating another woman. It was really heartbreaking for me because I felt that I saw this big, grandiose birthday that he did for her versus the type of birthday I just experienced with him, she testified. Jane texted Diddy, I don't ever want to do another hotel night. I didn't want to do those things with you on my birthday, but I wanted to make sure we had a good time, Jane wrote. I feel so cheap once again. Jane wrote she was done being used by Diddy in her notes app. There's Jane on the stand crying in the sketch. Oh my God. This because I haven't been around a part of it. Hey, toxica pounder. Not the torta pounder. The jury, perfect place for you. The jury saw excerpts of Jane's writing from her notes app where described how she felt about hotel nights in November 26, 2022. And one night, Jane wrote that she kept waiting for Diddy to fulfill his promises, which was a reference to how Diddy would tell her they spend time together outside of the hotel nights, but it would never happen, she testified. She wrote, you hurt my feelings every time you dismiss me. It's belittling, according to the writings shown in court. Jane said Diddy promised her things she wanted, including date nights and quality time with them, but she said he wanted to have hotel nights first. She would agree, and after them, Jane said she would be too exhausted to spend the rest of her free time sleeping. Wow. In another note, Jane wrote, hey, I don't know why you're calling for me, but I'm sorry. I don't want to do rugs for days and have you use me to fulfill your freaky wild desires in hotel rooms. Jane read aloud a note she wrote on December 12, 2022, in which she said Diddy wanted escapism or debauchery and then would turn to other women, leaving her cleaning and recovering from the hotel nights on her own. You have just crossed too many lines, she wrote in the note, adding that he would be in contact with other women while she was with him. Jane testified she would clean up after some of the hotel nights, which occurred at her home. I'm done being used by you. I don't feel good around you, she wrote in the note. It was really hurtful to see that Diddy was capable of doing these really romantic love gestures, and when it came to me, I was always just met with excuses, she testified. Jane said to Diddy, I'd like to get off the hamster wheel and do something different with you. Prosecutor Maureen Comey is now reviewing texts between Diddy and Jane after her birthday in February of 2023 in Miami. Jane testified that on her birthday, Diddy sprung a hotel night on her with 3 men. She texted him, why do you lie to me? She testified that after the hotel night on her birthday, Diddy embarked on a private vacation with another female. Oh, heck no. Quote unquote, it broke my heart because I just finished spending my birthday with these guys having sex with me, and then just for my partner to leave and do a romantic gesture for someone else, she said. Jane said she had a feeling in Miami that Diddy was planning something for someone else, but when asked about it, he said no. Diddy responded to Jane's text asking why he lied, quote unquote, because I didn't feel like telling you what I was doing with her. You had your birthday and I didn't tell her what I was doing with you. It feels really like you use me to get off and then go away for the week, Jane texted him. And the next message, Jane wrote, I'd like to get off the hamster wheel and do something different with you. I deserve it too. And another message she wrote, he had promised her vacations for years, but all we do is hotels and it's sad. It's not fair to me. Quote unquote, I didn't want to do all of that on my birthday. You knew how tired I was, Jane wrote. Diddy eventually responded, let's be friends because I can't take this part for real. I'm done with you comparing yourself to someone else. I treat you good and if you don't feel, so let's just be friends. Diddy also said, I'm tired of these long texts telling me what I'm doing wrong. Ew. I'm so disgusted. It's hard to say no. To toxicas or what? Hey, Angel. How do you know it's so hard to say no when you're also trying to please someone else? That's true. Jane stopped texting Diddy for 13 days after she pushed back on the birthday hotel night. Jane sent more texts to Diddy after she said he sprung a hotel. Wait, Oh yeah, sprung a hotel night with her on her birthday. In those messages, Jane talked to her about feeling used and lied to. Combs responded in part, "Anything you've asked for me, I've done. We'll miss each other." Jane then reiterated in the text that all she wanted to spend was quality time with Diddy. She wrote she wanted to, quote unquote, do things outside of these rooms. "I won't miss it because I'm more than that." Diddy texted Jane several times in the days after this. He said things like, "Miss you, and let me make it up to you, and you're taking this too far now." She didn't answer him for about 13 days, reviewing the phone records. So then why did she end up answering him again? Right? Like, I don't know. Jane's attorney asked the judge to take further steps to protect her identity. Jane's attorney, Lindsay Lewis, is addressing the court about media and social media reports about her identity. The attorney is asking the judge to take further steps to enforce the pseudonym order. Judge Summarinian said he would consider and hear the party's position about a gag order if the attorney files an application. Lewis said her team has reached out to some individuals and documented potential violations for future enforcement. She believes all but one of persons seeking to discover or reveal Jane's identity are not in the courthouse, and her team has not been able to determine the person's identity. The judge asked Lewis to send the information she has about potential violations in his chambers. Juror reacts to explicit photos shown in court. Before the break, a female juror placed her hand over her face as sexually explicit photos were displayed on the screens in front of them. The jury was shown 15 photos that Jane said were taken during a hotel night. Jane testified each of these photos showed her and another man, and Diddy was present for all of them. The public was not able to see these photos. Some jurors were also closing their eyes when Jane's writing from her notes app and the text threads were read. Oh my God. I can't imagine, dude. The jury, they're like horrified. Yeah, please hit the like button. Difficult to remain anonymous when you have 1 million IG followers. And when your baby daddy famous. Allegedly. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong person. Jane drafted a note to Diddy, quote unquote, "I just accept the fact that you were a pathological liar." Jane read a note from her phone she wrote on February 12th, 2023. She testified it was about her thoughts towards Diddy. "You know what, babe? It's okay. I just accept the fact that you're a pathological liar," the note read in part. Why was she not sending these messages? I feel like she was already doing the worst. You know what I mean? Jury sees Jane's notes reflecting her frustration towards Diddy. The jury saw more of Jane's writing from her notes app, which she said sometimes she copied into messages to Diddy. Okay, so she did send some. In February 2023, Jane wrote, "All you wanted was another hotel night and used me before your trip like you've been doing to me for 2 years. You lied and you said you had no time for me because you were stressed with work," she wrote. Jane also wrote she wanted anything outside of these hotels from Diddy was a joke to him and that she was tired of being used every Friday to get high. Combs suggested a birthday makeup trip, and then proposed it include a hotel night. Oh my gosh. He's disgusting. Jane said she didn't respond to Diddy after they fought following her 2023 birthday celebration that ended with a hotel night, but Diddy continued to call her and text her a lot. He also had some of his staff, including an assistant and a butler, reach out to her, Jane testified. She said she didn't respond to any of them. Jane said she had scheduled a trip for Paris Fashion Week after her fight with Diddy. She said it had been over 2 years since she had gone on a trip on her own. A few hours before her flight, Diddy started texting her repeatedly about Paris, and then he called her phone like 30 times in a row. Jane said she hadn't told him about the trip, and she had no idea how he found out. She testified that she didn't respond, even though she said it made her feel like he cared. She went to Paris for about 5 days, and when she got back, she and Diddy started talking again. "We were bickering, but he was adamant that we see each other, and I missed him as well," Jane said. She said Diddy told her to come to Miami so they could figure out a trip together as a birthday makeup trip. Jane read some messages between her and Diddy from March 12, 2023. She testified that they had been talking about planning the makeup trip to Turks and Caicos. In the messages, Combs said they should plan a night of debauchery and fun and then straight to the airport. Jane testified that he wanted to have a hotel night. She responded, I just want us. We need to reconnect. Cool, Diddy said. Jane testified that they in Miami before the trip and they were bickering about Paris. He was just showing agitation about the fact that I just up and left how this girl can't do that, she said. Diddy said, oh, I already read that part. My bad. Jane describes Trix and Keiko's trip turned into a hotel night. Jane said Diddy and her went to Trix and Keiko's for about 5 days, and he seemed bored when they arrived. After the first day alone, Jane recalled that one of the men who would join them for hotel nights was suddenly on his way there. They met Paul in a hotel near a villa, and they stayed for a sexual encounter until the next night, she said. Jane and Diddy went back to their villa, and sometime later, the music mogul called the man to meet them there. We were both laying down, and I was just so excited that I get to cuddle with him, and he gets this, look like he still wants more, and he's like, do you have more in you? Jane said. I didn't really hesitate too much because I wasn't screaming for it, Jane testified. Before the man arrived, Diddy gave her a bracelet, which Jane said made her super happy, and later gave her lube when it became painful to try to have sex because she was extremely sore. She said she got upset, took the bracelet off, and threw it against the wall after Diddy made a comment along the lines of, you can't take it anymore. She stormed out of the villa and walked around crying until Diddy went to talk to her. I remember him saying, are you crazy? How could you look at me like that? Jane said, adding that she couldn't find the words to tell Diddy how she felt in that moment. Diddy and Jane slept in different rooms that night, and Diddy told her she had to apologize to the man for making a scene. It had been 24 hours with no breaks for me, Jane wrote in the text messages to the man after she reached out to apologize. I'm not a robot, just a mix of tired, hungry, sleepy, and sore. She said Diddy feels he didn't do anything wrong. The jury saw a photo of Jane on a private jet wearing the bracelet Diddy gave her. Jane testified that she and Diddy stayed on the island for another day or two, and when they flew to Miami, she contacted another man to meet them because she felt bad for ruining their trip. I don't know. I don't know what to think. Hey, Maura, good to see you. Good to see you. It's terrible. Jane says she entered a 2-year love contract with Diddy in 2023. Jane said after the 2023 trip to Trix and Keiko's, she and Diddy Combs entered into a love contract. Diddy asked Jane what she wanted as a monthly allowance, and they agreed to $10,000, which she spent on rent for a new home. Hell no, I'm definitely asking for more than $10,000, dude. Jane said they agreed on a 2-year contract because it matched, not that I would do it, but you know what I mean? That's all she asked for? She had been doing this for 2 years. That's all she asked for. If she was going to stick around, I would have been I don't know. I don't know what she could have asked for, but Jane said they agreed on a 2-year contract because it matched the time they had already spent in the relationship. Jane said she moved into a house where Diddy paid the rent in April of 2023. Who's paying your rent now? Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked. Sean, she says, confirming that Combs is currently paying her rent. What? Girl, I think you need to talk to your landlord because I think at this point, after Friday and Monday, today, girl, I think you're going to have to start paying for the rent. Jane says Diddy paid for her veneers because he didn't like my teeth. At the same time that Diddy started paying Jane's rent, Combs also paid for her to get veneers because he didn't like my teeth, Jane testified. Between April and August of 2023, Jane and Diddy saw each other frequently, always for hotel nights, Jane testified. At one point in that time, Jane texted Diddy complaining that she hadn't seen him. Jane testified that she meant that she hadn't seen him alone outside of a hotel room. Combs responded, quote unquote, "We'll get over it, please. Look at the roof over your head and that pretty smile. I don't want to do anything if that's still an issue." Wait. Okay, I'm sorry, but the contract, a business arrangement? But okay, why would you do that? Why would you, if he proposes a contract, which, whatever, it's a psychopath contract, and is giving her money and stuff like this, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have taken it. Business arrangement? A sexual arrangement? Jane says she felt compelled to send photos when ill to prove she couldn't participate in hotel nights. Jane is describing her complicated relationship with Diddy. Jane read text messages between her and Diddy from August 18, 2023. The messages would describe her confusion and desire to please him, even though she felt sick and that her body hit a wall from the rug use and lack of sleep. Jane testified that at one time, she was really high and promised him an all-star party, which was when she would invite the top 3 or 4 guys and bring them all in one night. She said she had even asked if they should get a hotel or message Diddy's assistant if they want to use her house. The prosecutor asked why she would propose that. Jane testified, I was high. I was with my lover. I wanted to play into what he likes to hear. I like making him feel excited. I was just riling him up. She testified she was planning for a room in her house because Diddy alluded to moving these encounters there. Diddy had told her he put $15,000 on credit for things in her new house and copied an old message from her where she said she needed more money to furnish the house, including a second bedroom. Jane testified that Diddy brought up the all-star party that she had suggested earlier, even though she told him she was neglecting the signals from her body following the last hotel night. She then told him she had to reschedule because she got her period and sent him a photo of proof. I needed to prove to him that my hesitation was real and I needed to be excused for the night and just hope that he's not mad at me, Jane said. Combs then grew angry and accused her of playing him for money. A few hours later, Jane texted Diddy saying she was sorry and asked him to call her. Diddy responded that he was mad and he said, "You played me." She replied and sent him a photo of her tampon and texted him in part that she wasn't playing any games. What? I can't breathe. She texted him again and later saying that she reread all of their messages and he accused her of using him for money just because she didn't feel good and asked him to postpone. I'm not a liar, a cheater, a user, or a sex robot, she said in the message. He didn't respond to my message until 3 days later when he said good morning and that he loved her. Wait. Oh my God. I can't even think right now. It is more a job than a relationship. I'm not condoning it, obviously, but that it was ultimately, which doesn't help the prosecution. Yes, Switch. I know what you're saying. There's more of a job instead of a relationship. So then is it ST? Is it abuse? If she was if it's more of a job? So it's a shitty job with shitty conditions. I mean, why continue? Why would you even go back to him after those 13 days? I don't know. I'm just because she loved him and wanted the money. Whereas to Cassie was being locked in rooms, being beaten to a pulp. She had plastic surgeons coming over to Diddy's bedroom to give her stitches and shit. And also have to remember the manipulation money. Girl, and that being said, people can be abusive. That's true. I don't know. Combs threatened to stop the financial support after a fight. Jane said Diddy threatened to stop supporting her financially days after they had a fight, prompted by the all-star party cancellation. The threat came after Diddy texted Jane to quote-unquote move on, and she expressed her frustrations with how the music mogul treated her when she had to cancel their plans for the SEX encounter, according to a series of text and audio messages between her and Diddy from August 22, 2023. I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? Diddy said in an audio message, noting he didn't want to send the message, but she left him no choice. After we're done reading these and we watch the clips, we're going to hear that. He said she had a rude awakening coming if she didn't stop fighting him. According to the message, Jane testified the rude awakening meant cutting her off financially. You better get on your job. That's all it is, Diddy said, according to the message. Jane said he understood her job was taking care of him, being good to him, and making sure he was happy, which included the SEX encounters. He ended the audio message saying, I can't do this shit with you every time you get upset. Jane texted Diddy saying he had been making things feel completely transactional lately and was quote unquote threatening me any chance you get. She testified Diddy threatened her by bringing up quote unquote in so many ways that he was paying for her house. In further text and audio messages, Diddy reiterated that he wanted to move on, and Jane noted how he hadn't apologized to her as well as the threat. You have been a roller coaster of confusion, she wrote in part, before sending him a screenshot of flowers and a card that Diddy sent to another female. After those messages, Jane testified Diddy told her that he loved her and wanted to see her on a FaceTime call. Jury's dismissed for the day. The jury has been dismissed. Prosecutors are going in the courtroom testifying. Okay. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo has argued that the jury should have not seen Jane's phone note repeatedly calling Diddy a liar. Prosecutor Maureen Comey said that the note shows Jane's state of mind at the time and serves as a prior consistent statement that bolsters her testimony on the stand. Comey also explained that the prosecution is working to prove SEX trafficking by fraud, and the note shows that Jane felt materially defrauded. Wait. Materially defrauded? The note shows that the fraud was material because Jane bases her decision to travel to see Diddy lie and then ends up in a hotel room. Agnifilo argued that the lies Jane was referring to were only lies about the other females that Diddy was seeing. Jane testified she felt lied to because Diddy would promise her alone time, but when she got with him, they'd have a hotel night. Okay, so this is Friday, and this is what happened. Defensive, belittling, and dismissive. They read text messages. Okay. From vacation to hotel night, the birthday. Okay. Sketch of them in court. Let's move on to today. Are you guys shook? An emotional, manipulative roller coaster. I think if he's convicted, it will be for everything that he did to Cassie and far less Jane. I don't even know what to think about those. Well, I know what I think, that I'm disgusted, but I'm shook. I'm shook. Okay, let's move on to today, and then we'll watch the AI clip that I have, and we're going to watch a court and a law and crime video too, just like kind of going through this. So today, Jane will be back on the stand. She continues to testify. Judge says he'll pick the defense's mistrial motion tomorrow. He'll pick up. So if you missed the live yesterday, I actually read that motion before we watched the AI clip. So make sure you guys go watch that and listen to the mistrial motion. It was like 5 pages. The judge says he'll pick up the defense's mistrial motion tomorrow because the government plans to respond in a filing at some point today. The defense team submitted to move for mistrial over the weekend. The motion was based on the testimony of Brianna Bongolan, which defense attorneys say is demonstrably false. Remember, they thought she was like lying about the balcony issue. Diddy pressured Jane to send bad girl texts. She continues to testify. It's crazy how knowing a celebrity my entire life and having no clue how crazy they are. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's continue. So bad girl text. Jane said that Diddy's accusers, we know who she is reading a text thread between her and Diddy from September 15, 2023, before she went to visit him in New York. Diddy told her, quote unquote, send me some shit of you being bad girl. According to the text thread, Jane said they would catch something when they were together and expressed concern that he was carrying a phone with footage from hotel nights, encounters that generally included a male entertainer. She also accused him of wanting videos of her to use with another woman. What? No way. He was like playing these videos while he was with another celebrity. I'm disgusted. Diddy said, just do what I say, please. I'm horny. And stop it. Don't say no to me, please, according to the text thread read in court. Jane testified that she had Diddy buy a phone just for their hotel nights because all of Diddy's assistants had the security code for his personal phones he regularly used. Jane testified that she was upset at the time of these texts because she had heard Diddy gave a podcast interview in which he bragged about how he had 48 hours straight sex with another female. Jane testified the trip he referenced to in the podcast was a yacht excursion Diddy promised to take her on, and that when he took the other woman on that trip, Diddy downplayed it, claiming they didn't have sex. Jane texted Diddy, I don't want to be used to perform and fulfill your fantasies. In another message to Diddy, Jane said she felt disrespected and didn't want him to use her for a hotel binge. I don't want to be used and locked in a room to perform and fulfill your fantasies, Jane texted him, coming to the realization of what this really is. Diddy responded to Jane, I'm tired of your false accusations. Jane sent Diddy a message in September of 2023 that said, quote unquote, I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. It's dark, sleazy, and makes me feel disgusted with myself. I feel it's for the only reason you have me around and why you pay for the house. I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights with you in fear of losing the roof over my head. I don't want to keep feeling like that anymore. She testified she had felt obligated to engage in the hotel nights since Diddy started paying for her rent for her new home in April. Jane said Diddy would say little guilt trip things about the house. I felt like he had made such a big purchase, and I felt that this was something I had to do in return to make him feel okay about that. Combs responded, Girl, stop, her message, and then later said they should talk. Combs arranged a hotel night in New York after promising a proper trip. Jane is continuing to testify about a series of communications before she visited him in New York in 2023, in which she says she felt disrespected and told him she didn't want him to use her for a hotel binge. Diddy sent her a voice message telling her how sick he was and that nothing she was saying made sense, she testified. He didn't acknowledge her comment about feeling obligated to perform at hotel nights, she said. Hotel nights, she previously testified, were encounters that included a male entertainer. Then they got on FaceTime call after that, and Diddy calmed her down and said everything she wanted to hear. He promised her they have a proper New York trip with dinners and shopping and didn't mention a hotel night, she said. Jane went to New York on September 17, 2023 because she didn't think there'd be a hotel night, she testified. Once she got on the plane, however, Diddy sent her messages about arranging a hotel night. I just remember taking a deep breath and feeling a little upset and a little disappointed, a little defeated, Jane testified. In responding to his messages, she tried to brush away his questions about a hotel night, she testified. Okay, I have a surprise if that's okay, just one, Diddy responded. Jane testified that Diddy was going to introduce her to a new entertainer for a hotel night. She said she hated it. Once she was in New York City, Jane and Diddy went to a lounge, she said. We bickered a bit and I was kind of showing discomfort about these nights and how it's just been sprung up on me, she testified. She said Diddy was being defensive. On the way back to the hotel, she took an e-pill, she said. Then she went back to the hotel room in lingerie, and this new surprise was coming. So she would get upset when he would sleep with other women also. It's easy for her to lose her income, him sleeping with another sugar arrangement. So easily replaceable. Good point, Rich. The level of wealth they believe they can get away with anything. Right, Dodge? Jane describes organizing another hotel for Diddy. Jane testified that Diddy's surprise entertainer didn't go well, so she felt like she had to make it up to Diddy. She contacted another entertainer they had called for previous hotel nights, and they arranged to have him fly to New York City. The jury saw texts between Jane and the man in which Jane told him she was sorting out his cash payment. And another text, she told him there'd be an envelope with cash left at the front desk of the Trump International Hotel. Jane testified she got the cash from Diddy. Entertainer who joined Diddy and Jane in Miami after New York encounter, she said. A few days after the September 2023 New York City hotel night trip, Jane next saw Diddy Combs at a Miami hotel, she testified. On the Miami trip, Diddy wanted to, quote unquote, watch footage from the New York trip. Combs wanted a part two, so they had the entertainer who was with them in New York join them in Miami on that trip as well. So, like, they weren't even having relations. Diddy was just pimping her out. Combs asked Jane for a hotel night while he was with another woman, she testifies. He's so disgusting. In October of 2023, Jane and Diddy were discussing Diddy's request for her to arrange a party with entertainers or men paid to have encounters. At that same time, Jane said she saw one of Diddy's ex-girlfriends posting with Diddy on her social media. Jane testified she was furious that he was asking for a hotel night while he was with another female. You got that girl next to you, so figure it out, Jane texted Diddy. Diddy responded, you're the only thing that's going to put me at peace, please. Jane responded, introduce her to P. It's not me, it's the entertainment that puts you at peace. Jane testified that P was a reference to entertainer Paul. So Young Miami was watching videos of Jane, and they were using them for their sexual encounters. I am horrified. And lots of other things. These guys aren't paying to sleep with these women. Aren't they getting? Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm just, this is crazy. In later messages from the same October 2023 conversation, Jane wrote, our experiences are desensitizing sex for me, and that she didn't want to be mistreated, according to the testimony in court. I don't feel like performing loveless, cold sex, she wrote. Jane was frustrated because she felt like Diddy treated her differently than he treated others, she testified. I had to earn just basic things from my relationship, like love and respect and romance, but I felt like he was giving it to everyone else. I'm not a corn star. I'm not an animal. I need a break. I don't want to do anything. I've hit a wall, she wrote in the messages. She testified the request for a break referred to not wanting to give my body to anybody else at all. I'll only make love to you, Diddy responded in the messages. Jane wrote back that she's had to have sex with strangers for 3 years. I'm tired, she wrote. So we're breaking up, Diddy wrote. Jane testified that she had not suggested they break up in any of her messages in that conversation, but had only told him she wanted to stop participating in the hotel nights, sexual encounters that included a male entertainer. The conversation continued on October 16, 2023. Diddy wrote to Jane, quote unquote, let's spend the day just me and you, no strangers, please. It's my only day off. Jane responded, it's loveless for me and nothing satisfies you, and you push me to do more and more. Diddy said, let me make love to you. It's filled with love. Spend the day with your family or your ex. I need time for myself, Jane responded. Jane testified that it didn't matter how good a night was. He always wanted me to do more and more, she said. Okay, so they take a break and then they come back. Love bombing would start whenever Diddy wanted one of these nights, Jane testifies. I'd imagine the men are paying for sleeping with women, and then the women are being paid partial for what men paid to do, salary over hourly. I don't even know what to say. I knew this trial was bad, and I knew Diddy was like a sick monster, but I'm questioning like what Kim Porter went through. I want to know what Aaliyah was going through. I do want to hear from Justin Bieber. Where the hell is Ashton Kutcher? I say this in every live, like, what the heck? Where's Young Miami? Where's J-Lo? Jenny from the block. Jenny hiding from the block, because I'm sure she has a lot to say, and I wonder if J-Lo participated in any of these nights. Allegedly, just my opinion. Remember, they were dating. They were married. Wait, weren't they married? Oh, no, she didn't marry Diddy, right? I can't remember. She's had so many marriages, I can't keep up. Okay, let's move on. After the short break, Jane had resumed testifying about the text conversation between her and Diddy on October 16, 2023. Spend the day with your family or Gina. I need time to myself. Oh, so was it Young Miami and it's Gina? I think it was both. I think they were both involved. They probably both saw freak offs. Where's Gina girl at? Jane wrote, according to the text messages she read, Gina is another woman Diddy had a relationship with. No, I want to see you. We don't have sex. I want to spend the day with you, please, Diddy responded, according to the readings in court. You beat the love out of us. You made it crystal clear exactly what you want me for. You're going to spend the day love bombing me so you can get what you want. It's not genuine. I've hit a mental and spiritual wall, Jane wrote in the messages. She testified that whenever he wanted me or one of those nights, the love bombing or the persistency would start. Yo, the love bombing. We're not seeing anyone high profile. Yeah, why, Dodge? Y'all hearing all of this now, I can only imagine what Aaliyah went through and why they took her. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, I'm just a girl up here covering true crime. I have been following Aaliyah since the gate, though. Jane says she stopped answering Diddy's calls after they fought. The fight carried into the next day, Jen testified. She says she told Diddy she needed space and stopped answering missed calls. Combs left her an audio message saying, I won't be calling you like this. I need you, girl. Oh, I wouldn't be calling you like this. Then later in the day, Diddy said, can I please come over there? That's my house, too. Jane said he was referring to the house she was living in that he was paying for. Jane testified she was shutting him out, not answering his messages or calls, because every time she let him in, quote unquote, I'd be right back into whatever he wanted. Okay, so she's like putting her foot down there a little bit, huh? Jane says she responded to Diddy's messages about medical issues because she cared about his health. Oh my gosh, imagine sitting like right in front of him and having to tell all of this. I would be so livid. I'm going to struggle with that. One can only hope they've all been subpoenaed. We need to know. Where the hell is Jenny from the block? Isn't it crazy? Ashton was supposed to have a date night the night that, yeah, which I have something coming up on that. I can't get the song Rock My Boat. Justice for Aaliyah, dude. Justice for Aaliyah, justice for Tupac, justice for Biggie. I'm just so disgusted with Diddy. Jane continues to testify about the conversation she had with Diddy in October of 2023. Diddy texted Jane a screenshot of a conversation he had with his doctor about his knees. He wrote that he was stressed, that there was a lot going on, and on top of that, I'm horny. Combs texted Jane a screenshot of a conversation he had with his doctor about his knees. He wrote that he was stressed. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that was a duplicate. Jane responded by telling him that to take it easy and giving him some advice about his medical issues. She hadn't agreed to see him before the message, but she responded because she cared about his health. How about this, Diddy? How about you stop popping all them pills, and then you might not have health issues. Jane met Diddy for Sobriety Party Hotel in October of 2023, she testifies. After their message exchanges about his health, Jane met up with him at his residence, and they ended up going to a hotel room for a sobriety party on October 18th, 2023. Jane didn't take any drugs during this party, and she threw up after having sex with two men. When she told Diddy she had thrown up, he said, okay, good. You feel better now. Let's go outside. And then she had to be with a third man. Jane said at the end of the night, she felt absolutely terrible. Remember, Jane had previously testified the following in October 23 sobriety party at a hotel in Beverly Hills, California. She said that she wanted Diddy to get sober around this time, and he agreed to stop taking substances for 30 days, but wanted to have one last hurrah. Jane says she asked Diddy for money following the traumatic party. He called Danny Masterson. Yup. Justin will use his mental health issues to avoid testifying, I'd assume. Ashton is probably on the island, and he has been unreachable for the last 12 months. I would hope he's not on there with some girls or something. Wanting your partner to be with other people trips me out. Yeah, let me know how you guys feel about that. I'm curious to get your opinions. I think it's okay to be a freak. Don't get me wrong. This is a little much. She asked Diddy. Okay, so Jane said after the sobriety party, Diddy went to Miami. She said she texted him asking him to put money in her account. Jane sent more angry text messages about feeling used for the sobriety party that had turned into a hotel night when Diddy didn't answer. Diddy sent her an audio message telling her he's single and he doesn't have to listen to her. The argument continued, and eventually Jane and Diddy got on the phone. Jane testified that over the phone, Diddy offered to pay 3 months more of rent, after which she expressed her frustration over the party, which she called traumatic. Jane testified that she told him, I'm not Gina or Cassie. After the call, Jane texted him, you agreed to match my 2-year investment in this toxic ass relationship. Match the 2 years, like you said, and we're leaving each other alone, Jane messaged him. Don't call me, don't text me, I'm dead to you. She testified she wrote, I'm dead to you because Diddy said that to her on the phone call. In a later text, she said that Diddy had been threatening to take away her home. Combs responded by calling her crazy. He said that the beauties, we both don't have to do anything we don't want to do. Jane testified that he was referring to paying her rent in that message. Jane responded that he was threatening her house for the millionth time and that he got her sick. She testified that after the sobriety party, she got a UTI and a yeast infection. Girl, I'm thinking you got a lot more than that. I'm sorry. 3 to 5 men in one night? And no protection? Girl, not that I'm saying SCX workers like have diseases, but come on now. I'm terrified. I hope none of these females have like health issues later down the road. Like, I really hope so. I hope they're okay. You placed all these harmful men on me and risked my health, Jane texted Diddy. Literally what I was just saying. The jury has heard a further string of October 2023 texts between Jane and Diddy in which he reportedly asked her to call him to talk. At one point, Jane texted Diddy, quote unquote, you placed and paid all of these harmful men on me and risked my health. This was never love. I regret everything and all this dark, toxic shit that entered my life, Jane texted Diddy. After more messages were sent to her, Jane and Diddy had a phone call in which he tried to calm her down, she testified. She later texted him that she was processing some sort of trauma and just needed some healing time to get back to myself. I feel as your lover. I wanted to please you and distress you, and I pushed through and went along with things, even when deep down I wanted the night to be over, she said to Diddy in a message. She wrote that she would try to give Diddy cues to let him know she wanted to finish, but he would encourage her to push through. I knew I was consenting, like I say on tape, Jane wrote. She testified that she was referencing to their phone conversation in which Diddy told her, if anyone were to watch these tapes, they would have thought you were having the best time. They look like you were consenting. Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked her if that was true. Jane paused for a long time, responding, I'm still trying to figure that out. He set her up with consent. Jane says she left Diddy's house before his birthday in hopes of avoiding a party. Jane testified that she went to Diddy's house soon after the latest text exchange she testified about. The visit ended up being one of my favorite moments, she said. The jury saw photos of the two of them together in his master bedroom. She recalled this was the first time she felt supported by Diddy. I felt he had really observed for the first time what I was saying, that I felt he understood me in this moment, Jane said. They spent time together over the next few days in late October, but she left when it got closer to his birthday on November 4th. With celebrations, I just felt like they would be put on me as far as him wanting to party. Combs didn't call her to party for his birthday, but Jane said she bought him a mobile television screen they could use for pornographic movie nights, hoping that could replace the entertainers. She bought him that to replace the entertainers? No. Do we assume the IRS? The IRS better be getting on Diddy. Venture's 2023 lawsuit was like reading my own story. Jane testifies. Jane testified about learning of Cassie's November 2023 federal lawsuit against Diddy, a lawsuit in which Cassie accused Combs of grape juice, and physical abuse, which was settled the day after it was filed. I almost fainted. In fact, I think I did, she said. Jane said 3 pages in Ventura's lawsuit had a harrowing resemblance to her own experience. I just reacted like, I can't believe I'm reading my own story, she testified. Jane said she has only met Cassie a few times in the passing years ago, and they have not communicated beyond that. Jane messaged Diddy after reading the lawsuit, she testified. I was just in complete state of shock just messaging him, and just like, what is this? I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma, Jane texted to Diddy about Cassie's lawsuit. Jane continues to testify about her reaction to the lawsuit. Jane texted Diddy in November 2023, a few days after the lawsuit was filed, she testified. She wrote to Diddy that she woke up feeling sick with nightmares because she had been reading Cassie's lawsuit. I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma, she texted Diddy. Referencing similarities between her experience and those alleged by Ventura and Cassie's lawsuit, she wrote, even 2 of my own birthdays, you forced men on me. The sick part is you knew this was coming and you gaslit me and made me feel crazy about the trauma I was developing, knowing you've been here before, Jane texted Diddy. It's also clear that this was a sexual exploitation that you framed as love for your sick fetishes, Jane wrote at the time. Diddy didn't respond for 2 days. He eventually said, call me on this phone. Important. Oh, now it's important. Now you want her to back you up when that lawsuit comes out. He's such a pig. Hey, Savannah. Yeah, I saw that. I covered that, Capers. The jury heard a recorded phone call between Jane and Diddy. This recording recovered from a cell phone that belonged to Christina Quorum. We need to get all of that stuff on her, Christina Quorum. When is she going to testify? I'm sure of it. She's subpoenaed, right? Jane testified she didn't know anyone was listening at the time or that she was being recorded. She also said she could hear Diddy writing notes during the call. On the call, Diddy and Jane spoke about the lawsuit. She confirmed on the stand. Diddy told her, I can't really talk on the phone. I can't really talk on this phone, but also said he'd do what he could to make her feel better. Jane is audibly emotional on the call recording. Diddy said of the hotel nights, it was just some kinky shit that I thought we both, you know what I'm saying, enjoyed. Diddy said, I need you to be there for me. Jane responded, who's there for me when I close my eyes and have these effed up things in my head? Jane testified she was referring to the hotel night flashbacks she'd often have. Diddy told her to call quorum if she needed anything before ending the call. Diddy and Jane spoke again later that day in another call that was recorded. Diddy said multiple times, I need your friendship right now. He also said, you know you ain't got to worry about nothing else. Jane testified she knew he was referring to the rent for payments for her house. I can't. Jane says she didn't see Diddy in person for about 3 months after the lawsuit. The first time Jane saw Diddy after the Cassie's lawsuit was in February of 2024. In Jane's mind, she and Diddy were on a break between November 2023 and February 2024, but they still had some communication in those months, Jane testified. Jane responded for 2 days. So the first civil case was successful for Cassie, but there was no criminal investigation. I was wondering about that. Just everyone really wasn't ready for the charges. Yeah. Please stop using women for your fetish, Jane wrote to Diddy. Jane said she sent Diddy a message on December 7th, 2023 with a screenshot of something on Instagram that she said was something was very triggering for me. The Instagram post was not discussed or shown in court. I wonder why. Jane texted Diddy, quote unquote, I'm crying and it's so close to some nights I felt forced. She also wrote, please stop using women for your fetish and leave women alone who don't want to do those nights with you. Hire SEX workers and stop emotionally harming women that love you. Combs responded, you're trying to set me up. This is crazy. This is effing crazy. Are you recording our phone calls? Jane texted back, no, stop calling me. You will never understand because you're so deep in your lies that you tell yourself. She also wrote, I set up the men for myself because I didn't want to be set up with any more strangers. It was a protective instinct for myself. Jane says, I became the side chick in my own relationship. Jane read these text messages between her and Diddy in December of 2023, where Diddy asked her if she was dating. She sent him an audio message, which was not played in court, and then wrote in part, I became the side chick and sex worker in my own relationship. She said the situation was traumatizing for her. Diddy asked if she was seeing anyone and then later asked if she wanted to see him in the new year and asked about his Christmas present. Jane responded to him saying she was only going to provide for her child for the holiday that year because she had an unproductive couple of years. She testified she was referring to the years she spent in the relationship where most of her time was taken up with hotel nights. I'm not even the same person anymore, Jane texted to Diddy in December of 2023. On December 27th, 2023, she sent Diddy messages in which she said he was never satisfied. You couldn't ever handle this pain. I'm not even the same person anymore, she said in the messages. Diddy asked her how they could move on and asked if she was free in the new year. Jane said she lifted him up in those rooms and took on a lot to make him happy. In later messages, Diddy said, stop with the rooms, and accused her of setting him up. Jane testified that he was referring to the hotel nights and testified that she was not planning on filing a lawsuit against him. You should have, and you still should now. I'm not certain of the timeline. Statute of limitations perhaps expired for the criminal, hence the law. I don't know. I feel like with this trial, they should all, it should be allowed. Jane's testimony about resisting hotel nights is significant for the SEX charge. During testimony, okay, so this is just an opinion. This testimony could help the prosecution's case on the SEX trafficking charge, which suggests coercion or duress by Combs against other people. Now Jane is one of them. A shameful dark secret. Jane explains why she didn't tell anyone about the hotel nights. Jane is testifying more about the text messages she sent to Diddy in December of 2023. She said she felt manipulated and violated and said she was venting to the only person she could because she never confided in anyone else about the hotel nights. When asked why she never told anyone, Jane testified because it was a shameful dark secret of mine. In the messages, Diddy asked to see her, but he wasn't answering him for a time. Jane testified that she was trying to not answer Combs because he would gaslight her in a way that warped her sense of reality. Every time I would speak my truth or how I would really be feeling, Sean would just give me a different version of it and saying it wasn't this, it wasn't that, she said. At some point, they got on a FaceTime call. Jane testified Diddy told her on the phone repeatedly to charge him an amount that would help her move on. According to Jane, Diddy said things on the phone like, charge me for your resentment, and I just need you to get over this. Jane testified he also said at the time, I don't want any loose ends. After that call, Jane sent Diddy a text outlining terms in which Diddy would pay hundreds and thousands of dollars for what she felt would compensate her for the 3 years of the relationship. In response, Diddy told her she was an opportunist, a liar, and a con artist. She also testified that Diddy threatened to show her sex tapes to the father of her child. He's evil. Jane told Chief of Staff about the tape threat on December 28, 2023. Jane texted Christina Quorum about how Diddy had threatened her with the sex tapes. He said he would expose me and send them to my child's father. He has been bothering me for 2 months now, she wrote to Quorum in part. Jane said she talked to Quorum on the phone the next day, and Quorum agreed to hide the phone the tapes were on. Quorum then suggested to Jane and Diddy give each other space, Jane testified. Jane said Christina told her, I always tell him all the time to just give things space, otherwise we end up in the situation like we're in now. Jane said she felt she understood Quorum was referring to Cassie's lawsuit. We're not gonna, AKA extortion. Jane describes a sense of calm during months of distance from Diddy. After their December 2023 conversation, Jane and Sean didn't speak again until February 2024. She felt a sense of calm during that time with some distance from Diddy, she testified. Jane described a trip she took in January 2024 with friends to Las Vegas. She flew to Las Vegas on the rapper's plane and went with the group to dinner and a show and later the rapper's hotel room. When some of the group got to the hotel room late that night, one of the entertainers she and Diddy paid for the hotel room encounters was there. He was having sex with women while others watched, Jane testified. She didn't name the rapper or any other people in the party other than the entertainer. Jane's finances started to pick back up in January of 2024 after she started an OF account posting content of her lingerie, swimmer, and sexy suggestive possessions, she testified. Positions. She said a friend also helped her by sending her about $9,000 a month, she testified. She also said a friend helped her by sending her $9,000 a month. What friend? That kind of sounds a little sus. Jane says she got back in touch with Diddy because she missed him dearly. Oh, Lord. Jane said she and Diddy got back in touch in February 2024. Diddy texted her saying he had a dream about her. She testified that she responded because she missed him dearly. What the hell did she miss? Like, what did she miss? It must have just really been the money. He wasn't being emotional with her. He wasn't giving her affection. He was barely even giving her that D. She was getting it from S workers. In the messages, Diddy said he missed her smile and told her to send a picture of them pretty teeth. He then asked if she was free on her birthday. In the later messages, Diddy said he would love to spend her birthday with her. I'm traumatized from my past birthdays and what they ultimately led to at the end of the night, she texted him. Jane testifies about how she got back together with Diddy. The jury saw a long text message exchange between Diddy and Jane whether they should spend her birthday together. Jane expressed in several text messages that she didn't think it was a good idea, but eventually agreed to go visit Diddy in Miami for her birthday. When she got there, Diddy had a private dinner with decorations and gifts set up at his Miami home. After dinner, Jane and Diddy started drinking and took E, she testified. At sometime in the early morning hours, Diddy asked Jane if she wanted to see Don, one of the entertainers from the previous hotel nights. Jane testified that she agreed and had sex with John in front of Diddy at his residence. Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked Jane why she agreed to do that. At this point, I'm just so used to this being the outcome of whatever we're doing that I just accept it, she said. She and Diddy rested in Miami a couple days after that before she flew back to LA. When she left Miami, Jane and Diddy were back together, she testified. Jane and Diddy had more hotel nights after they reconciled in 2024. After Jane and Diddy got back together in 2024, she took about 3 trips to Miami to see Diddy, and he came to Los Angeles a couple times, she testified. They didn't go out in public because things had really hit the fan with what was going on, so it was better to just keep private, she testified. Jane also testified that they would have hotel nights at Diddy's homes or at her house. Combs suggested he and Jane split peacefully. Jane read aloud text messages between her and Diddy in March of 2024. Jane testified that Diddy was trying to get her to set up with a hotel room and entertainers or men paid to have encounters with Jane during the hotel nights. In the messages, Diddy told her that his mother was coming into town soon, and Jane responded implying that he was lying to cover up being with another woman. Diddy wrote that it would be best if they went their separate ways peacefully. I would appreciate it if you could sign something for me so I could have closure comfortably, he wrote. No problem, Jane responded. Diddy wrote that Jane was making her own money, so he had hoped they could have a clean break and that he told his accountant. Jane testified that his accountant was the person responsible for paying her rent on time. Jane texted him that she was still paying off her debt from being unemployed for 3 years when she was his on-call party girl. She asked Diddy for 3 months before taking on the rental payments. The jury saw more text messages between Jane and Diddy from the conversation. Jane texted him, "I'm tired of the rent threats. I hate living like this." Diddy hired a lawyer for Jane after raids on his home, she says. In this police car outside of Diddy's home. Homeland Security Investigations left a business card on Jane's home the day of the raids at Diddy's homes in March of 2024. She didn't speak to anyone at the HSI at the time, but she called Diddy and his security guard trying to reach out to Diddy about it, she said. At some point after the raids, Diddy hired a lawyer for Jane. She confirmed Diddy still paying for the attorney representing her now. Wait. Insults. So he... Wow. Why is he paying for that lawyer? Like I said, she's gonna have to figure it out after she's up there testifying against him, right? Like, that's crazy. Okay, Jane says one of the entertainers threatened to release the tape. Jane said one of the entertainers they used frequently, Sly, threatened to release a sex tape of them in 2024 after the searches occurred. Sly said he had a 35-minute video of Jane during a hotel night because Diddy Combs had recorded the video on Sly's phone instead of his own. My heart was beating out of my chest and I couldn't believe what he was saying to me, Jen testified. She asked Sly what he wanted for the tape and he asked for $10,000. She told him she'd try to make it happen. Jane said she called Diddy, who got his legal team involved. She then spoke to Sly again and told him she had legal representation and what he tried to do was sextortion and she wouldn't be having any further conversations about it. She later received a message from a big media company saying they had just bought the tape asking for comment. I fainted and I called my lawyer, Jane testified. Jane said the company never released the tape, but she didn't know why. She said she never spoke with Sly again. Who has that tape? Is it Pornhub? Oh my God. Jane says she was with Diddy the day the hotel video showing him assault Cassie was released. Yo. Who's paying for her attorney and that's going against him? Right. Yo. The tea is nuts here. Jane testified that she was at Diddy's residence the day CNN released the Intercontinental Hotel video that showed him baiting Cassie. Diddy's son came into his bedroom to tell Diddy something happened. Jane said she gave Diddy space that day while he huddled with his family and friends. At some point that day, she was invited to huddle with Diddy, his sons, and others as they planned a sincere apology post to address the video. She and Diddy didn't discuss the video in those first days, Jane said, but she never heard him deny it was him on that video. How are you going to deny it's him? Bo, he's right up there. Like, The next day, Diddy showed Jane a draft of the statement he posted on social media. She said Jane testified that Diddy gave positive feedback on the post he drafted. Oh, that she gave Diddy positive feedback. She flew back to Los Angeles from Miami soon after that. You guys remember that Instagram post, right? Like Diddy, he's like, ugh, I'm getting help. I'm not a bad man. Who is Mia? Mia is the other, Mia's a PH2, right? It's one of the girl who testified before, Jane. Okay, let me see. Jane and Diddy discussed contents of Cassie's assault video weeks after the release. Jane said Diddy didn't discuss what was shown in the video that showed him assaulting Cassie in 2016, but they had a conversation about it later in 2024, around June or July, a month or two after the video was released. He said that was the only time he had physical violence like that. Diddy also told her that Cassie was a hitter and she would hit, Jane testified. Prosecutor Maureen Comey asked Jane if Diddy said whether he would hit Ventura. Jane said she thought he addressed it, but couldn't remember what he said. The jury watched the May 2024 video in which he apologized for physically assaulting Cassie in 2016. That video was a joke, dude. I saw that and I was like, who's being punked by Ashton? Who's being punked? Diddy being punked? A very terrible day. Jen testifies about a fight she and Diddy had at her house. After she flew back to LA from Miami in May of 2024, Jane didn't see Diddy again until June 18th, 2024. She said she testified she remembers the date because it was a very terrible day. They planned for a date night in the house where she lives, with Diddy coming to LA after a family trip to Utah. Diddy's assistant, Jonathan, came over to help her set up with the house with decor and candles and stock the fridge. When Diddy first arrived, they spent time catching up in the backyard, Jane recalled. The jury saw photos and a video that Jane took of Diddy that night. In the video, music was playing and Diddy could be heard talking. Jane and Diddy got into an argument about half an hour after the video, she testified. I started confronting Diddy about who he was with on his family trip, she said. I was making an assumption that he was with another female. Jane called him a PDF file, she testified. Jane said the woman she thought he was with was an adult, but she was roughly 25 years younger than him. Was that Young Miami? At one point, Diddy bent over to tie his shoe and she pushed his head into a marble counter, she said. She didn't see any mark or injuries on his head till later. Jane said she started throwing candles around the house and repeatedly saying that she hated him. She said a lot of candle wax went onto Diddy's clothing, but she didn't see any glass hit him directly. I think he was probably cursing and calling me crazy, she said, adding his tone was angry. Jane says she hid outside her home for 2 hours after Diddy kicked and choked her. When Jane realized the fight with Diddy was escalating, she said she tried to lock herself in the master bedroom. When Diddy kicked open the bedroom door, Jane locked herself in the master bathroom, she said. Then when he kicked the door off the hinges, she ran to the master closet. She changed her clothes while she was in the closet, Jane said, because she knew she needed to wear something she could escape in. Diddy kicked open the closet door too. When Jane left that room and ran out the front door, Diddy caught her. Sean kicked me in the back of my thigh and I fell, Jane testified. Then he picked me up in a chokehold and choked me. She testified that she was able to squirm out of his grasp and run outside. Jane testified she didn't want to wake the neighbors, so she quietly hid by a wall outside until she thought Diddy would be gone. She said she thought she hid there for about 2 hours. Diddy found Jane after he hid and he punched, kicked, and dragged her. Oh my gosh. I can't with this. Thank you, 818. Combs fight. Wait. Jane continued to testify about June 2024 fight. She started to walk back to the house because she assumed Diddy would be gone by then, she said. When she turned the corner, she saw Diddy on the street. I was scared, but I was quiet, and I just kept walking back to the house, but I didn't want to wake up the neighbors. Girl, wake up the neighbors. I'm waking up every damn neighbor. Jane went into the guest bedroom in the house, locked the door, but Diddy kicked the door in, she testified. She started throwing more candles because she wanted him to get away from her. She ran onto a patio and Diddy followed her. I punched him, then he punched me, she said. Jane punched Diddy in the temple and didn't see any injuries on him after. Diddy punched her in the head twice, on my forehead and around my eye area, she testified. After Diddy hit her, Jane ran back into the backyard and went into a ball on the ground trying to cover her head. He started punching my head. He started kicking me. He started saying all kinds of things and just kept punching me. Who does that remind you of? Cassie video? Diddy said she was trying to take him away from his kids and his family, and Jane responded that she wasn't, and she told him to leave her alone, she testified. He grabs me by my arm and my hair and starts dragging me back into the house. Like he did Cassie in the hotel room. Jane says Diddy held her down while another woman insulted her. Jane said after Diddy assaulted her, they went back into the master bedroom and she used Diddy's phone to call the girl she assumed he was with on his family trip. Jane said she asked the girl if she was on the trip, and the girl started insulting her while the call was on speakerphone. Sean was holding me down and making me listen to her insults. Jane said she yelled out that Diddy was beating her, and he immediately hung up the phone. Later, Diddy FaceTimed one of his assistants and told him to tell Jane that there wasn't a girl on the trip. Jane testified that she was in the corner of the room and Diddy was standing in front of her. At some point after that, Jane went to the shower to cool off. When she looked in the mirror, she noticed 2 golf ball size welts on her forehead and a black eye forming. Diddy got in the shower too, but was still wearing his clothes standing out of the water. Jane testified that she told Diddy she hated him. Diddy slapped her 3 times in the face, eventually knocking her off balance to the ground. Diddy was then using her phone to watch porn. The phone was screen mirrored to the TV so she could see he was texting an entertainer they'd used before to see if he would come over. Ew. He's disgusting. Jane testifies Diddy told her to cover injuries with makeup before inviting the entertainer over. He's there sitting there watching porn, and he can't even probably get it up, and then he has all these like ex-workers just abusing her. Does she not present at a hospital after an assault that would trigger a police response? Jane testified that Diddy told her he was inviting Antone over because we're not going to end the night like this, baby. She said Diddy told her to put makeup on and put her hair to the side to cover her injuries, and that's what she did. Jane said Diddy scrolled up and saw earlier messages between her and Antoine, the same entertainer she had seen in January of 2024 during a trip to Las Vegas. She said Diddy saw a message where the entertainer referenced time with her mutual friends. Jane testified she understood it to be a reference to the people from the Vegas trip. She said she hadn't told Diddy about the trip because they were on a break at the time. Jane said Diddy asked what the message referenced, and she told him she didn't know because I didn't want to escalate the night. Jane said she chatted with Antoine for a little bit when he arrived before Diddy asked to speak with her. She and Diddy went to the other room, and he said the messages he read weren't sitting right with him and asked her again about the mutual friend reference. Around that time, Diddy had her take E. They excused themselves from the room with Antoine and went into the bathroom where he opened his hand to show her a pill. Diddy insisted she take the pill. Jane recalled Diddy saying she was not going to ruin his night. I don't want to, Jane recalled telling Diddy emotionally on the stand. Diddy got close to her face and said, "Is this coercion?" Jane testified that she just looked back at him. They returned to the room where she performed oral on the entertainer for what felt like forever. She eventually had relations with the entertainer while Diddy watched. Diddy has some psychological, deep-rooted issues, and I'm really wondering where the hell they arise from. Because don't just tell me that he came out of the womb wanting to do all this nasty stuff. Like, what? Jane says Diddy sent thousands of dollars in cash to cover the entertainer's cost in home damages. Diddy had his assistant, Jonathan, and a security guard delivered $10,000 to $12,000 in cash to Jane over the entertainer's cost and damages to the home. Jane testified that Diddy damaged 4 doors during the altercation the night before. She put some of the cash in a bag, covered it with the paper, and sent it in the Uber. She also took a photo of Uber's license plate, which the jury saw in case there was an issue with the money transfer. Jane testified that she never paid to get the doors fixed because there were so many other bills to take care of, but she did contact a supplier. The jury saw an email Jane sent to a door supplier inquiring about replacing the 4 doors, as well as several photographs of the damaged doors. Diddy accused Jane of cheating and said they were breaking up, she says. Hi, Corey. Good to see you. Jane testified that she saw Diddy in person a few days later. I just missed him so bad, she said. Jane said she and Diddy had been messaging each other about that night and how awful we were both feeling. Jane testified that Diddy repeatedly accused her of cheating while she kept apologizing and insisting that nothing had happened. They agreed to see each other and she went to his home. Jane said they tried to be upbeat there, but there was a sadness underneath. Sean was basically saying that we were breaking up and we were just going to be friends, she testified, adding that he loved me, but what I did was so wrong. At one point, Diddy asked his assistant what he had seen on the FaceTime call that night. Jane testified that the assistant said he only saw her crying in the corner when Diddy accidentally turned the camera toward her. Jury was shown a video of Jane with visible bruising at Diddy's house in June of 2024. The jury was shown a video of Jane at his home in June of 2024, and this video captured bruising around her eye and a welt on her forehead that was visible through the makeup on her face. The video was not viewable to the public, but the audio could be heard in the courtroom. Both Diddy and Jane confirmed that the bruising was visible in the footage. Jane also testified that she covered part of her face in her video after realizing her injuries were visible. Jane could be heard calling Diddy her bestie on the video. She testified that Diddy said they'd been best friends after they broke up. So Jane testified that she was teasing him about that. The jury also viewed another short video Jane took around that time, which also showed her injuries. Jane said she continued to keep in touch with Diddy for a while after they saw each other at his home in late June. She later learned he had gone on a whitewater rafting trip in Wyoming with another woman and was absolutely furious. We had just endured that kind of night, and in the midst of the controversy and everything, he was still able to plan another beautiful vacation, she said. Jane said she texted him angrily. I think I did break up with him, she said, then blocked both of his numbers, all of his assistants, and his security. Jane said she reached out to Diddy again after a few weeks because she saw his mother had been hospitalized and wanted to make sure she was okay. They started talking again. So she goes back to him again. Jane says Diddy threw water at her when she told him she was tired from staying up all night. Diddy invited Jane to Miami in late July 2024. She testified and she accepted. She flew in on a red-eye and met him for dinner, and the day after she arrived, she said. After they went to dinner, Jane said they stayed up all night together having sex and partying in the hotel room that Diddy arranged for them. After staying up all night, Jane said Diddy was feeling tired. She testified that Diddy had previously told her that she should vocalize when she was tired. But when she did, Jane testified that Diddy's demeanor changed and he called her names and threw water at her. He eventually apologized, and so did she. Jane says the last time she saw Diddy was at his Miami home in August of 2024. Jane testified the last time she saw Diddy was in August of 2024. When we were together, we were just in our same routine, having sex and everything. Then he says he should invite Dawn, she said, referring to the male entertainer. She said she then had sex with the entertainer in front of Combs. In August of 2024, you could be a willing participant and still change your mind. True, which this is so recent and not a single charge of assault. Right, Dodge. Diddy still paying for Jane's rent and attorney fees. Jane continued to communicate with Diddy until his arrest. Up to his arrest, the jury saw text messages from around that time in which Diddy asked her for explicit videos. Jane was planning to see Diddy in New York, but didn't because he was arrested, she said. Jen testified before a grand jury for this case in November of 2024, pursuant to a subpoena, she confirmed. She hadn't spoken to any investigators connected to the case before that, Jane testified. The next time she spoke with prosecutors was in January of 2025, and she's met with prosecutors multiple times since then. Jane was meeting with Diddy's defense team for some time before that. She confirmed again that Diddy's still paying for her attorney and representing her in connection with the trial, and is still paying for the rent in the same house in LA. Jane confirmed she hasn't filed or planned any lawsuits against Diddy. She testifies that the first people she told about what Diddy did to her on June 18th were his defense attorneys. She said she did not tell anyone before that except her own attorney because she was still processing that night and I didn't want it to be reality. Jane said she met Diddy attorneys in April of 2025. Although she was not legally required to meet with them, she testified that she still felt obligated because of her relationship with Diddy. I just asked myself, why am I doing this? I just felt the decision was just based out of fear and not wanting to make someone mad, she testified. Jane said she decided not to meet with them again because she wanted to honor what I wanted to do and honor myself. She confirmed that she had not filed any lawsuits against Combs and does not plan to. For her final question, U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey asked Jane how she feels about Diddy today. I just pray for his continued healing. I pray for peace for him. Okay, so I don't know. This is just my opinion, but it sounds like she's not planning to file a civil lawsuit. Maybe that's why he's still paying her rent and attorney, and he's going to keep on doing it so long she doesn't do anything, right? So the jury's dismissed. And I wonder who's going to testify tomorrow. In my opinion, they all took Diddy's money and sadly accepted it. Sadly accepted his abusive behavior. Yeah. Okay. That was intense. That was really, really intense. 2 days. We're going to watch a clip from Long Crime, one of my favorite channels. And this is with the audio and just like a recap of what we just kind of read. And then we'll watch the AI clip, which is Kid Cudi AI testimony, verbatim. You guys know how I've been playing that on my channel. She's a crown witness. She shouldn't be out of pocket, in my opinion. Yeah, she is. She's a good witness. Okay, this is the audio. Diddy Combs' voice message to Jane. Here we go.
Heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me?
Diddy accuser Jane has taken the stand, and so far, not entirely clear on what to make of her testimony. It seems she helps the prosecution's case at times, and at others, maybe hurting it. Let's break down some of the top moments for you right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Trafficking and the transportation to engage in prostitution, sex trafficking, and the racketeering charges. But here are the questions. What were the strengths of her testimony? What's going to help the prosecution? But also, what were the weaknesses? In other words, what can the defense use to their advantage? I want to talk about it. And to be clear, she's still testifying, okay? So this is a breakdown of what we've heard so far. Everything could change as she continues her testimony. But for this, let me bring on criminal law attorney, former prosecutor Melba Pearson to talk more about this. Melba, so good to see you. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Great to be with you again, Jesse.
Generally speaking, before we get into the specifics, how do you think Jane is coming off so far?
So let's be very clear. I believe survivors, all of that. And she did have some very, very heartbreaking aspects to her story. She kind of gives a mixed bag. So in some ways, she substantiates and bolsters the credibility of some of the other witnesses that have testified. She's definitely kind of reinforced the dark aspects of being in Diddy's world and all of the awful things that he does to people, and is clearly not a one-off, right? Because of the fact that she talked about so many different horrible things that she had to endure. But on the flip side, I think there's some questions about her credibility, not in terms of did this happen, but how much of this was coercion and how much of this was her choosing to stay for a better lifestyle. And again, I mean, these types of cases are very complicated. And, you know, when you think about domestic violence, a lot of people don't think about, you know, emotional abuse. They don't think about financial abuse and things like that. But again, you know, there's some of her testimony did smack me wrong. So I don't. Yeah, it's going to be a mixed bag.
Let me tell you this. What you just outlined is kind of what I have been wondering myself, and wondering if the prosecution needed her for this case. But let me explain where I think she actually has done well for the prosecution. I'm going to get to sex trafficking in a little, but I got to say, I think she is really helping to prove transportation to engage in prostitution, that charge. And she makes up one of the specific charges. I think it's count 5 in the indictment. By the way, this carries up to 10 years in prison, so it's a serious federal charge. But it is literally the accusation that Combs allegedly transported sex workers and Jane in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution. I don't believe there is a force, fraud, or coercion element that's necessary. It's basically transporting people for sex work, okay? Here's a little bit of a back and forth from the transcript from last week. Question: about how many of those times that you saw Sean in person between May of 2021 and October of 2023 did you end up having a hotel night? Which, in other words, is kind of like these debauchery nights. They're similar to the freak-off nights, okay? Answer: every single time I saw Sean. Okay, so she testified that Combs would arrange her travel. This was through assistance, that he paid for it, that she saw Combs hand cash to the male performers. She also testified that his security or assistants, like his purported chief of staff, Christina Coram, would give him cash. She testified that she helped to pick the performers, even arranged the flights of at least one male performer from Atlanta to New York. And she allegedly paid him $2,000 to $4,000. She claims she got the money from Combs. She testified how Combs arranged performers to come over too. She testified that the assistants had set up the rooms. So Melba, from this charge alone, do you think her testimony supports that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I say it's a mixed bag, because she definitely did give some things to the prosecution in terms of showing that she was flying all over the country to engage in these freak off / hotel nights, that it was at Diddy's request and direction, that again, that this wasn't something, even though coerciveness and fraud and force are not necessarily required. Again, when you look at it in the totality of the circumstances, sum and substance, nobody wanted to be there, right? The performers were there because they were paid. The women were there because they were in a relationship in some way, shape, or form with Diddy and thought that they were in a loving relationship, and it turns out they were really being abused. So I think it adds a lot to the general context as well as substantiating each of these charges. So for sure, she gives the prosecution that.
Well, Melba, if she's testifying about how she helped arrange hotel nights as a surprise for Sean, that was a part of her testimony, I believe. Can he say, hey, listen, I wasn't a part of all this? Or even if he agreed, is it still prostitution? You know, there was an argument that I'm paying these people for their time and experience, and maybe they could say I had them come over to dance and perform, and then one thing led to another. Or is this, again, I still feel like this is the most straightforward charge, but is there a way for him to even wiggle out of this?
No. Money for sex equals prostitution. And there's no other way around it. And if you're paying these workers, whether it's him doing it directly, whether it's him having an intermediary do it, you're still directing it, right? So at the end of the day, money for sex equals prostitution. He can't get around that. There's nothing he can do.
Let me ask you this. Aside from men getting paid, right? If she, and this is what she testified to, that she got her rent paid by Sean Combs, that he was giving her gifts like a love bracelet, that he was giving her cash. Is she the commercial aspect? Is she getting paid and flown around for sex work?
Realistically, yes. But the flip side of it is that I don't think she went into it with that arrangement in mind. So in her mind, she thought she was in a relationship. In his mind, I mean, who can really tell if it was a relationship or he was using her as a sex worker or a hybrid thereof? But it's not that straightforward that, okay, we're having a commercial transaction, you and I, you give me money, I give you XYZ in return. It didn't seem to be that kind of relationship. She talked about, I was in love with him and we had all these beautiful nights together, and I got upset when he was flying some other woman around on a private jet and wouldn't take me to the Turks and Caicos, that sort of thing. So to me, that takes away the commercial sex work aspect as in terms of intentionality. She did not intend to be a sex worker. That's not what she came to the table to do. She thought she was getting a boyfriend.
Okay, now let me move on to the most controversial charge, sex trafficking. Force, fraud, coercion. Force, fraud, coercion to induce Jane into performing commercial sex acts. That's the allegation. This is the mixed bag, even more so that I think you're talking about. So the travel component could arguably be established if this all happened in all different places, but it's really about the non-consensual aspect. She testified how Combs was dismissive of her request that the men wear condoms, and how he even became upset that she was afraid of speaking up because he would become agitated. She testified that on at least one occasion when she was exhausted because of these allegedly prolonged sex sessions, hours upon hours, Combs allegedly said to her, "You're not getting tired on me, are you?" And something along the lines of, "Let's finish strong," or "Let's end on a high note." She claimed that after she threw up in one session, he allegedly said to her, "That's good. You'll feel better now that you've thrown up, so let's go." And then she was allegedly directed to have sex with a third man that time. That he allegedly got disgusted at her for crying. That when she tried to speed things up with the other men, in an effort to, what she says, basically get it over with, he would tell her to slow things down. She testified that she told Combs that she didn't want to engage in this in certain ways, including through text messages. She apparently wrote to him how the debauchery or hotel nights were, quote, "the only reason you have me around and pay for the house," and that she was doing things that make me disgusted with myself. I don't want to keep feeling like that. And she encouraged him that they should talk like adults and figure out where we're going from here. "I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights for you. Combs apparently replied at one point, "Girl, stop." There were more sexually explicit messages where she complained how she's only being used to perform certain sex acts on other men. She also claims Combs gave her drugs like ecstasy to keep her awake for these sex sessions, although I think there is a question whether it was voluntarily taken or not. And you wonder if the acts themselves, right, sex acts with other men, one even apparently lasting 3.5 days, the jury could be saying, how on earth could all of this really be consensual? Melba, I'll get to the weaknesses or the potential weaknesses in her testimony. That alone, and if there's anything I missed, please add, but that alone, is that force, fraud, coercion?
The argument can be made that it is, on top of the fact that he is paying her bills and made it very clear. I believe in one part of the testimony, he allegedly said something along the lines of, "I'm on my job," meaning with the inference being, I'm paying for your bills, or, for your rent.
You're talking about a voice note that came out.
Yes, the voice note where he had said, I'm on my job, you need to get on yours. The implication being, I pay your bills, therefore you need to do what you need to do to make me happy, which includes these freak offs. So it's one of those things where she kept talking about how she was a single mom. She didn't know where she and her son were going to be able to go. And, from that perspective, she felt coerced because she was either going to be out on the street or she had to do these disgusting things. So there is.
Wait, but yeah, the love contract. That's right, Dutch. There was a love contract. Does that matter?
Definitely an argument to be made about the coercion aspect. Force is going to be a little bit harder from that standpoint, because I think for Cassie, the force is much stronger because obviously there was physical brutality. We saw the tape over and over again. And so definitely the force argument is stronger with Cassie. I don't think the force is as strong with Jane, but I think the coercion is definitely there. Fraud, I don't think there's much fraud there. I think it's mostly we're hanging our hat on coercion.
Remember, we're in the crux of her testimony. If you base it on the opening statement, there is violence to come. That's what I'm imagining we're going to get to. So again, it's a little bit, we're getting into this based on her 2 days of testimony or day and a half of testimony. We'll see where it goes. Here's the problem. There are many things that the defense may jump on. And to be clear, again, at the time of this recording, the defense hasn't even begun their cross-examination. So what were some of the weaker points in her testimony? Okay.
This cross is going to be wild.
A lot of her testimony was about how she did things to make her partner happy. That when she said she couldn't perform because she was on her period, she claims Combs accused her of lying, called her weird. But as far as I remember, I don't hear anything about her being forced to still go through with it. Like being thrown into a room and said, I don't care, have sex with this guy on your period. She talked about setting up some of these events. She talked about that she chose the workers. Again, she said it was to please Sean Combs, but apparently she had a role in who was selected. She wrote sexually explicit messages to sex workers and Combs. She claims to turn him on. That she was with him up until his arrest with a last hotel night in August of 2024, so just weeks before he was taken into custody. She claimed that he is still paying her rent, and that the only thing she really enjoyed about the hotel nights was being with Sean. How she was essentially just putting on a good show for him, disconnecting when performing. Melba, is this enough? Is this enough to show a lack of consent, or does the jury need more? Did it feel like she was just getting upset that she wasn't getting a more alone time with him? Or is she testifying as a victim of sex trafficking? I know this is not the classic example of sex trafficking, but what do you think? Are those problems in her testimony?
Again, the key is going to be the prosecution is going to have to give the closing argument of life, okay? Because they really need to weave this together for the jury, for them to have a better understanding. Because again, I think a lot of this would smack the average juror wrong. I mean, when you have Jane talking about how Diddy paid her rent and was giving her 10 grand a month.
I'm sorry, if he's still paying for her rent, is that not like conflict of interest or some sort? Like, why is
just for expenses? And then she turns around and says that was not enough for her to be able to furnish her house and live in a comfortable manner, that she needed to go into debt and open 3 more credit cards. I think that aspect, I think it would put the jury off, especially if you have a jury of average New Yorkers who, working, trying to do everything they can to make ends meet, and would love to have an extra 10 grand free and clear every single month to be able to, pay their bills, go on vacation, or do something. So I think some of those aspects made her look like she wanted to be in the scene and she just didn't like the price that she had to pay. I think there's a definite argument to be for that by the
Do you think it's a problem that she was with him up until last year and is now testifying against him?
I think kind of.
Because again, it's not like the classic sex trafficking case where, oh my gosh, someone was kidnapped, was shipped off for sex trafficking. Authorities rescue her. She testifies again. This is different.
Yeah. And again, it's really getting back to Dr. Hughes's testimony in terms of the complicated relationships, in terms of domestic violence relationships. The dynamics are so strange and are foreign to most of us, right? Because you're like, if somebody's forcing me to, or telling me I need to have sex with multiple men while I'm recovering from a yeast infection or a urinary tract infection, most people are thinking, the average person will be like, no, I'm not going to do that. You need to go somewhere else with that foolishness. So I think hearkening back to Dr. Hughes's testimony would be the best play for the prosecution to kind of explain why she even continued to sleep with him all the way or be in these situations all the way up until 2024.
Do you think Dr. Hughes will have to be recalled? There was a little bit of discussion this morning about whether that's a possibility. Again, she is a forensic psychologist who talks about the complicated relationship between a victim and an abuser and why they stay in touch and why they might behave in ways that look inconsistent with being abused, but there are different explanations for it. I'll give you an example. I was wondering, do you think Jane vocalized her lack of consent enough for legal purposes as opposed to, I hate to say it like this, but I wonder if this is how the defense is going to characterize it, a disgruntled girlfriend, right? She talked about giving subtle clues.
I think the defense is going to do that. And I think she was groomed. I do think it's Stockholm Syndrome. He was obviously beating her as well.
At times that she didn't want to do something. And when she did,
He's
did
also
it feel
paying
like
her rent.
she was upset she didn't get alone time with him, or
Yes,
she's being
does.
victimized? I'll give you an example. This is from the transcript. Do you have an estimate of about how many times you told Sean that you did not want to keep having these hotel nights? I don't have an estimate, but I know I definitely wasted in a sense of mostly text messages. Jane, between May 2021 and October 2023, did you try to bring this up with Sean over the phone and in person? Yes. Once or more than once? More than once. And each time, did he react essentially the same way? How did he react? Just upset, defensive, belittling, dismissive? Melba, again, do you think Dr. Dawn Hughes has to be recalled to explain this? And did Jane, in your opinion, based on the testimony so far, did she vocalize her lack of consent enough to put Sean Combs on notice and to make it clear that he was sex trafficking her, or allegedly sex trafficking her?
So to answer the second question first, I think she vocalized her displeasure and lack of consent enough. Because I think it just felt like she said it 10 different ways from sunrise, whether it was a text message, whether it was phone calls, him ceasing to speak to her for like 3 weeks or something along those lines, after she said that, this is problematic, et cetera, et cetera. So his reactions to what she said made it clear that he heard her loud and clear and did not like what she had to say. So I think from a legal's perspective, yes, she had clearly said that I don't want to do this. Now, the fact that she kept doing it, separate discussion, but she always said that this was not something she wanted to do. This is not the relationship she wanted to have. Talking about the Pandora's box, like I feel like I opened Pandora's box and now this is the only basis of our relationship and there's nothing else. She made it clear this is not what she wanted to do. So I think that part is very clear. Now, in recalling Dr. Hughes, I'm on the fence. I almost feel like if I was a prosecutor, I would have waited to call Dr. Hughes, knowing the types of testimony that was to come, because of course you knew what order pretty much you were going to call the witnesses in. So if you knew you had multiple girlfriends who had similar experiences, then you kind of wait and have Dr. Hughes come and explain all of the behaviors in one fell swoop, rather than bringing her on to explain Cassie's behavior and then try to recall her for the narrow purpose and have to fight with the defense.
First of all, they had to get Cassie on the stand immediately because she was about to give birth.
Of course,
They had to do that. I think there's something to say now the jury knows where Dr. Hughes is coming from in that mindset. Then you call Jane as opposed to after. They're already primed for it in a way. So I hear you, but I think, that's another way of looking at it. Look, I wonder also how granular the jury's going to be. And I don't know if this is even necessarily a question of whether Jane was credible or not, as opposed to maybe other witnesses who testified, because there were opportunities for her to make it sound much worse, to make it more of a clear-cut case of force or fraud or coercion, and she didn't. For example, she testified how she didn't really want to have sex with this guy that Combs brought over, who she claimed was sweaty and he smelled, and how Combs seemingly tried to encourage it, and that Combs, ended up having sex with her as the guy was hovering over her, and then he excuses him and brings somebody else in. I mean, to really make it sound worse, and if she really was, what the defense maybe will say is, oh, she's only out to get Diddy, she could have said, oh, he forced me against my will to have sex with him. And that, I didn't quite get that. I mean, it's pretty disturbing to say the least. You're around the guy you don't want to be with and he's hovering over you. It doesn't take away from that. And you go back to something else that I wanted to mention as well. Whether manipulation and financial control are elements of sex trafficking, right? So when she complained about being used for sex, Combs apparently responded in a text that she was throwing sex in my face and saying, let's just be friends. She apparently responds, I don't throw sex in your face constantly, but these nights require everything out of me for 30, 40 hours straight. I figure on my birthday, you would switch it up on me. You're making me feel used right now, and now you're breaking up with me? And then about financial control, she claimed that Combs paid her rent, discouraged her from making her own money through OnlyFans. So, you talk about financial control, alleged manipulation, and then allegedly controlled her appearance, including paying for her to get veneers because he didn't like her teeth, that he wanted her to get piercings, which apparently she did. She claims she actually developed an infection as a result of it. So the financial control, the alleged manipulation, the control of appearance, these are the opening paragraphs of the government's indictment. When they talk about how Combs engaged in a pattern of abusing women and forcing them into sex acts as part of racketeering, do you think that those are compelling aspects of her testimony?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, like I said, the elements are there. It's just a matter of getting past some of the distasteful aspects as well as some of the things that might be perturbing and feel counter to human nature, right? But it's all there. It's all textbook in terms of making sure that she had no way to escape, that she didn't have her own money stashed away or anything like that to be able to be like, you know what? No, I'm moving on. He's making sure to control all of that, which is classic domestic violence. And that's also factors into the whole coercion aspect, because again, if you don't have any other options and he's forcing you to do something you would want to do, there we are. So I think those aspects are going to be strong for the prosecution.
And, she texted him apparently complaining that she hadn't seen him alone outside of a hotel room or a hotel night. And Combs apparently responded, well, get over it, please. Look at the roof over your head and that pretty smile. I don't want to do anything if that's still an issue. So something to think about there. Okay, let's put sex trafficking to the side. Now I want to talk about racketeering. So for racketeering, it's essentially Combs allegedly operated a criminal enterprise.
I do think he meets the ST charges. I do.
Using his business and his staff to commit crimes and cover them up in this systematic abuse of women that went on for years.
Rico,
the prosecution needs to prove at least two underlying crimes: sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, possession and distribution of narcotics and controlled substances. Take your pick. Well, Melba, the assistants, the security, allegedly setting up hotel rooms, the travel, carrying cash, his former chief of staff, Christina Coram, helping with Jane's piercing. Has Jane's testimony about this, does it help with that element of racketeering?
I think it does. I think it does, because the drug use, because remember, she didn't get the drugs herself. It was always Diddy or his team that got her the drugs and all of that. So you've got the drug trafficking. And again, you've got all the aspects of moving around in order to do these hotel nights, which again lends itself to sex trafficking. So I think that she helps. Now, is she the linchpin in the prosecution's case in terms of proving racketeering? No. But she is one building block by, again, showing the depths to which Christina Coram was engaged in all of these acts, and in terms of orchestrating and managing and all of that, and her level of awareness, and how much Diddy's organization was involved in each of these aspects on a day-to-day basis, which again, is harder to argue that this is not racketeering because you're involving your company in your day-to-day personal life in this matter. It's not just, okay, yeah, I'm getting a flight for you and your girlfriend. It's, I'm getting a flight for sex workers to come to do a freak off. You can't tell me that they don't know what's going on, right? So clearly he's using his businesses, he's using his employees to be able to further these hotel nights, these freak offs and all of that. So again, I think you have it there. But at the end of the day, I think the prosecution already has Rico from Kid Cudi, from the blowing up of the car, because that's arson, and Capricorn Clark, because he held a gun to her head and told her she couldn't leave, which is armed kidnapping. So everything else to me at this juncture is gravy.
No, that's a good.
That's a good point. That is a really good point.
Right, the more the better.
That's a really good point. I forgot about that.
Sell the jury options, right? Give the jury options for predicate crimes. But let's talk about that. So, in terms of the underlying predicate crimes, we already discussed sex trafficking. Put that to the side. But here's one. Jane testified that these hotel nights were like work. Is that forced labor or no? Because she's not necessarily an employee.
She's not an employee, so I don't think it's forced labor. I think you get forced labor.
I thought it might have been a stretch.
Clark, Capricorn Clark and
David James.
Right. You remember when one of the security guards told him, you know what rhymes with tired? Fired. So
and Mia. So if you're saying this is his assistant that he allegedly sexually assaulted, I could see that might support forced labor. Okay, let me ask you this: drug offenses.
Rico, I thought involved more than one person, like mafia style type. Who else is going to be charged? I think other people need to be charged here. Christina Quorum, maybe?
You need co-conspirators for racketeering conspiracy. So Jane testified how assistants would bring drugs and security would bring drugs. She testified that she carried drugs. She transported drugs 4 Combs from LA to Miami, that Christina Quorum allegedly helped arrange this too. That's co-conspirators for the drug offenses, the underlying drug offenses for racketeering?
Absolutely. Without a question to me, because again, they knew what they were doing. They got the drugs, not for themselves, but at the behest of Diddy in some way, shape, or form, whether it was Diddy directly saying it or Diddy telling Christina and Christina going ahead and telling them to do it. But regardless, it came through the organization from the top. The order is get cocaine or get ecstasy or ketamine or whatever it is, because there's a freak off, there's a hotel night. Whatever the case.
Corey says Rico means organization. Yeah.
So, that's done.
Let me wrap this up in conclusion with this, Melba. Let me ask you.
Yes,
in conclusion,
baby. I agree.
After arguably problematic witnesses like Brianna Bangolan, whose story of getting dangled off a 17-story balcony had been really seemingly countered with digital evidence, travel receipts, her own problematic text messages, Mia, too, who claimed that she was sexually assaulted by Combs, but then wrote him these loving messages. And again, there's always another side. There's always a way to explain trauma and why people might stay in touch with the people who abuse them or write loving messages. There's always an alternative explanation. Not the cleanest case for the prosecution, not the cleanest witnesses for the prosecution. Having said all that, after they testified, as of right now, and there's more testimony to go, is Jane the best witness to call to prove their case?
I don't think she was the best, but the reality is when you're putting together a case of this magnitude and of this scale, you're going to have a mixed bag of witnesses. You're going to have some strong ones. You're going to have some amazing ones who are really going to bring the case home for you. And you're going to have some that might be a little bit of, again, they give you a little bit, but they not exactly the best. But the reality is, very rarely do you have a trial where your witnesses are a nun, a priest, and a rabbi, right? The reality is, it's people, and I've said this in closing arguments a bunch of times, like, great to bring the Pope in, right? But the Pope is generally not going to be a witness to certain types of things. It's going to be the people that are in the mix. And sometimes your best witness is a drug dealer. Sometimes your best witness is, a sex worker, whatever the case may be, just because you don't particularly like them, the way they live their life or whatever the case may be, does not mean they're not telling the truth, does not mean they're not credible witnesses. So you got to work with the hand you're dealt. And I think the prosecution is doing the best they can with what they have. I will say one thing, though, in terms of the Brianna testimony, because I came away at the end of her testimony like, the defense did a really great job on cross, but when they brought that expert in that brought up the text message that was a deleted text message from Cassie in real time saying, hey, something horrible happened. I didn't actually see it, but I think he dangled somebody off the balcony. I got to get away. I think that actually rehabilitated Brianna's testimony to an extent. So there's also
we could have a separate conversation because they said that the metadata from the photos of her injuries indicated those photos were taken before the attack, that Combs was not in LA when this was going on. Again, what did Cassie see or hear versus, actually seeing or hearing herself? You could also make the argument, since they're not the cleanest of witnesses, it shows their credibility. Like I said, if they really wanted to get Combs, make it sound worse. I don't know, complicated situation.
I feel like I'm reading a lot of what you guys, I think, are saying. I think Rico will stick before the S trafficking. She said she didn't want to do it, and then he abused her, and he told her to basically get back to work. But he just got power hungry. The thrill of getting unwilling people to do his bidding was what got his rocks off. Don't get me wrong, he's committed a litany of crimes, but my money is that Rico won't stick. It's a long jury may surprises, but there's plenty of room for a successful appeal. Is KK, Christina Quorum, going to testify either for the prosecution or the defense? Because I think her testimony would maybe, with what she has to say, since she was, so involved with it, could possibly prove the Rico. Let me see. I'm going to play the audio. Team Z posted a clip, and then we'll watch the AI. Thank you for being here. Make sure you guys hit the like button. I want to play the audio that I just found on Team Z. I don't know how much, how good it is. I haven't listened to it, but I just got it across my feed. So let's see if we can hear, I guess, audio from Diddy.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence. And ain't nobody threatening you, and I ain't trying to go back and forth with no woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I ain't got no time for no motherfucking games. Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you could be mad, I could have a spat, we could have whatever. Then after that, you better get on your job. That's really, that's all it is. Cause you got me on my job. Nah, it ain't never gonna work like that over here. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to leave this message, but you have left me no choice. So either you go in the direction of moving on and shit like that, or you just have me just keep moving. Ain't no threat. I'm just being clear. I can't do this shit with you every time you get upset.
I almost kind of want to listen to that again. Let's do it. This is insane. I didn't know that. I know I played a clip of it before, but let's listen to it again.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence. And ain't nobody threatening you, and I ain't trying to go back and forth with no woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I ain't got no time for no motherfucking games. Where my life is at right now, I don't have no time for no games, baby girl. Me and you could be mad, I could have a spat, we could have whatever. Then after that, you better get on your job. That's really, that's all it is. Cause you got me on my job. Nah, it ain't never gonna work like that over here. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to leave this message, but you have left me no choice. So either you go in the direction of moving on and shit like that, or you just have me just keep moving. Ain't no threat. I'm just being clear. I can't do this shit with you every time you get upset.
We have learned a lot more about the.
I don't know if that was the whole thing. That was just what TMZ just posted. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. If Christina Quorum testifies under immunity, oh, well, I guess I'm thinking she needs to be charged, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So I was thinking maybe they offered her a deal to go up there and prove the RICO or whatever, and she gets immunity. She needs to testify. She was doing a lot of this for him, and I think that would be really important. Okay, so you guys know I've been into the AI stuff. We watched the opening and defense statements yesterday for AI, and now we're going to watch, and we watched Cassie's the other night, so make sure you guys subscribe, go back and replay. Thank you for being here. Make sure you hit the like button. It really helps your girl out. But we're going to watch the AI. So now we're moving on. We're going back to Kid Cudi when he testifies. We're going to watch it through AI. It's verbatim, the transcript. I've really been digging the AI. Has to face his own demon. Yeah. Okay, let's watch this.
Calls Scott Cudi.
Welcome. Just come right up here.
Can I ask you to please give the court your first and last name and spell your first and last name?
Scott Mescudi. SCOTTMESCUDI.
Ms. Johnson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Cudi.
Hi,
What do you do for work?
I'm an actor and musician.
Are you known by any other names?
Kid Cudi.
Ms. Foster, could you please pull up what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 2A401? Mr. Cudi, do you recognize who's depicted in Government Exhibit 2A401?
Yes.
Who is that?
Cassie Ventura.
Do you know Miss Ventura?
Yes.
How do you know Miss Ventura?
We were friends and we dated briefly.
How did you first meet Miss Ventura?
Just at an event in New York years ago, around like 2008.
Did you ever collaborate professionally with Miss Ventura?
Yeah, we worked on some music together.
You also mentioned you dated briefly. Approximately when did you date Miss Ventura?
2011.
You can take that down now, Miss Foster. Mr. Cudi, who else, if you know, was Miss Ventura involved romantically with around the same time you were dating her in 2011?
Sean Combs.
Could you please pull up what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 2A101? Mr. Cudi, do you recognize who's depicted in Government Exhibit 2A101?
Yes.
Who's that?
Sean Combs.
Is that the same Sean Combs who was romantically involved with Miss Ventura?
Yes.
You can take that down now. Mr. Cudi, when you were first dating Miss Ventura, what, if anything, did you know about the status of her relationship with Mr. Combs?
When we first started dating, you mean?
Yes, when you first started dating.
That she and Sean Combs had some problems and they weren't dating anymore.
Did your understanding of the nature of their relationship ever change?
Did the what now?
Did your understanding of the status of their relationship ever change?
After she told me?
Yes.
No, not that I knew of.
Miss Foster, can you also please pull up what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 2A406? Do you recognize Mr. Cudi, who is depicted in this exhibit?
Yes.
Who is this?
Capricorn.
How do you know Capricorn?
She was a friend of Cassie's.
I want to direct your attention to December of 2011. Did there come a time when law enforcement responded to your home in December of 2011?
Yes.
Why did law enforcement respond in December 2011?
Because I had a break-in.
I'd like to start at the beginning of the day of the break-in. How did that day start?
Well, I got a call from Cassie around 5:30, 6 a.m., and she told me that Sean Combs had found out about us. I was really confused, but she asked me to pick her up. She sounded really stressed on the phone, nervous, scared, so I went to go pick her up, and yeah.
A few follow-up questions for you. When Miss Ventura said that Mr. Combs had found out about us, as you said, what was your understanding of what Miss Ventura was saying?
Objection. Overruled.
You can answer.
Repeat the question?
Sure. You testified that Miss Ventura told you Mr. Combs found out about us. What was your understanding of what Mr. Combs had found out?
That me and her were dating.
And you also testified that you were confused when you heard that?
Yes.
Why were you confused?
Because I didn't think she was still dealing with him.
And you mentioned that you went to pick her up. Is that right?
Yes.
Why did you pick her up?
She wanted me to come pick her up. And she was also worried that he would come to my house because he asked for my address and she gave it to him.
When you picked her up, could you please describe for the jury Miss Ventura's demeanor?
Very stressed, nervous, just scared. Didn't know what Sean Combs would do.
Prior to the phone call you received that you just testified about, had you and Miss Ventura previously discussed the nature of her relationship with Mr. Combs?
Yeah, about like if they were still hanging out or if she had seen him or just meeting in general.
Let me be a little more specific. What, if anything, had Miss Ventura previously told you about Mr. Combs being physical with her?
That he was abusive.
Same objection, Your Honor.
It's sustained.
Mr. Mascotti, after you picked up Miss Ventura, where did you go?
I took her to the Sunset Marquis.
What's the Sunset Marquis?
It's a hotel in Los Angeles.
Why did you go to the Sunset Marquis after you picked up Miss Ventura?
I used to frequent the Sunset Marquis, and I just thought it was safe and just wanted to put her somewhere where she was off the radar.
When you say safe, what do you mean by that?
Just safe, away from him.
When you and Miss Ventura were at the Sunset Marquis, who else, if anyone, did you speak to while you were at the hotel?
Capricorn.
So before we talk about the substance of that communication, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Had you spoken to Capricorn before this morning?
Yes.
How often had you spoken to Capricorn on previous occasions?
Quite often. She hung out with me and Cassie a lot.
On the morning when you were at the Sunset Marquis, how did you speak to Capricorn?
On speakerphone.
Who else was present, if anyone?
Cassie.
And can you describe how Capricorn's voice sounded on the phone call that you and Miss Ventura had with her at the Sunset Marquis?
She was very scared. Sounded like she was on the verge of tears.
What, if anything, did Capricorn say to you and Miss Ventura on that phone call about what was happening at the moment for her?
Objection, Your Honor.
That's overruled.
You can answer.
That Sean Combs and an affiliate were in my house and she was in a car. She was forced to go along with them over there.
And what, if anything, did Ms. Capricorn say about where she was at that moment?
She was in a car outside my house waiting for them.
And what, if anything, did Capricorn say about where Mr. Combs was at the moment?
Asked and answered. Sorry, objection.
Overruled.
In my house.
After you spoke to Capricorn, what did you do next?
I got in my car and went to my house.
Did anyone go with you when you went to your house after that phone call?
No.
Ms. Foster, can you please pull up for identification for the court, the witness, and the parties only, Government Exhibit 8C102? Mr. Mezcudi, do you recognize what's depicted in this exhibit?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the front door of my old house.
And is this the house you drove to after receiving the phone call from Ms. Clark?
Yes.
The government offers Government Exhibit 8C102.
No opposition.
8C102 will be admitted.
Will you please publish to the jury, Ms. Foster? Mr. Mezcudi, what was the address where you were living at the time?
8925 Hollywood Hills Road.
And you mentioned that this was just so I'm clear, you mentioned that this door we see in a photograph, is this the front gate door or is this the door to the residence?
This is the front gate door.
Is there an additional door to the residence?
Yes.
You can take that down now, Ms. Foster. How would you describe the neighborhood that 8925 Hollywood Hills Road is located in?
Quiet, family-oriented.
And approximately how long was the drive from the Sunset Marquis Hotel to your home at 8925 Hollywood Hills Road?
If you guys like this, make sure you watch yesterday's live. The AI, I did one for opening and prosecution opening statements and defense, and we're going to do Cassie tomorrow.
Maybe like 12, 15 minutes.
And in December 2011, what kind of car did you drive?
A Porsche 911 Cabriolet.
Was that the car you were driving that evening?
Yes.
While you were on that drive from the hotel to your home, what, if anything, did you do?
I called Sean Combs.
How did you have Sean Combs' phone number?
I just had it from years ago.
Did Mr. Combs pick up your call?
Yes.
Can you describe the conversation that you had with Mr. Combs on the drive to your home?
Yeah. I'm going to be very candid. I said, "You in my house?" And he was like, "What's up?" I was like, "Are you in my house?" And he said, "I just want to talk to you." I was like, "I'm on my way over there right now." He was like, "I'm here."
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last bit. After you said, "I want to talk to you," what did Mr. Combs respond with?
No, he said he wants to talk to me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I said, "I'm on my way over to my house right now." And he's like, "I'm over here waiting for you."
When Mr. Combs said, "I'm over here waiting for you," what was your understanding of where Mr. Combs was located?
At my house.
What was Mr. Combs' tone of voice during that phone call?
Calm.
When you arrived at your house, focusing first on the outside of your house, what did the outside look like?
Pretty normal.
Were there any security cameras at your residence at that time?
Yes.
Were those security cameras working that evening?
They weren't. I thought they were working, but they weren't.
You find out later that they weren't working?
Yeah.
Where were the security cameras positioned on the exterior of your house?
To the side, like somebody moved it out the way.
When you say someone moved it out of the way, can you explain what you mean by that?
Like the camera was angled down at the door originally, and it was moved to an opposite angle.
And when did you discover the camera had been moved to a different angle?
Once I got to the house.
And was the camera at a different angle earlier, before the break-in?
Yes.
Had you moved the security cameras at all?
No.
I want to focus now on the inside of your home. When you went inside, was anyone inside your home?
No.
What did you see inside your home?
Some gifts that I bought for my family were open, some stuff I got from Chanel, and then my dog was locked up in my bathroom.
So taking those one at a time, where were the gifts that were opened?
On the kitchen counter.
What type of gifts were those?
I can't remember exactly what specifically, but it was stuff from Chanel.
And you mentioned that your dog was locked up in the bathroom, is that right?
Yes.
How did you typically allow your dog to stay in your home when you weren't present?
I just let him roam.
Had you shut the door to the bathroom before you left?
No.
Before the break-in, how long had you had your dog?
I think by this time, maybe 3 years.
And I want to focus on the immediate aftermath of the break-in, right after. What, if any, changes in behavior did you notice in your dog after the break-in?
Very jittery and kind of on edge all the time.
I want to focus on what you did next. After you got to your home, what did you do after that?
I got in the car, and that's when I called Sean Combs.
So you got back to your car after you went to your home?
Yeah.
Were you still alone in your car?
Yeah.
And you mentioned you called Mr. Combs again?
Yeah.
Why did you call Mr. Combs again?
Because I was looking for him.
Why were you looking for him?
Because I wanted to confront him. I wanted to fight him, you know?
Did you call Mr. Combs?
I love
Yeah.
Did he answer?
Yes.
Can you describe that conversation for the jury?
I can't remember my exact words, but I was kind of like asking him where he was. And he was like, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. So at that point, I hung up and I thought to myself, I was like, okay, you're angry.
Objection.
Grounds.
Non-responsive.
That's overruled.
Okay, you're angry. Just think about this, you know, like, and I just thought, like, I don't know who he has with him. I don't know what his intentions are.
Objection.
Why don't we get a fresh question?
That's fine. Mr. Mezcudi, what did you do after that phone call with Sean Combs?
I thought about, you know, the reality of the situation, not knowing what I was walking myself into, so I decided to call the police.
Can you describe Mr. Combs' tone of voice when you spoke to him on the phone while you were in your car?
Calm.
Where did you go after you called the police?
I went back to my house.
When you returned home, was anyone there?
Yes.
Who was there?
The police.
Did you speak to the police?
Yes.
Did you make a report about the break-in?
Yes.
Did you see Miss Ventura later that day?
Yes.
What was her demeanor like when you saw her later?
Stressed.
You mentioned this was in December 2011, is that right?
Yes.
Where did you spend the Christmas holiday in December 2011?
With Cassie's family in Connecticut.
Where did you stay in Connecticut when you were there for the holidays?
At her family's house.
Can you generally
Imagine if Kid Cudi and Cassie would have stayed together. I kind
describe
of
Miss
like
Ventura's
that.
demeanor when you were in Connecticut for the holidays with her family?
I think being around her family really did a lot for her at that time. She really needed it.
While you were away in Connecticut, did you have any additional communications with Mr. Combs?
Yes, he had hit me a couple of times.
When you say he hate you, what do you mean by that?
He texted me.
Did he text you? You said a couple of times. How frequently did Mr. Combs text you?
It wasn't every day. It kind of stopped at some point when I responded to him and told him I didn't want to talk. His text messages were always along the lines of him wanting to speak. Just get to the bottom of it.
When you say you got to the bottom of it, what are you talking about?
Just figure out what's going on, I guess. He was in the dark about things and wanted to talk. But at that point, you know, post break-in, I didn't want to talk to him.
Did you respond to Mr. Combs' texts?
Yeah, I told him, you know, specifically told him, you broke into my house. You messed with my dog. Like, I don't want to talk to you.
When did you leave Connecticut?
A little bit before New Year's.
By January of 2012, after New Year's, what was the status of your relationship with Ms. Ventura?
We weren't really hanging out,
Why was that?
I guess.
Objection.
Can you rephrase the question?
Sure. You said you weren't really hanging out with Ms. Ventura?
No.
Did the relationship end?
Yeah.
Directing your attention to January of 2012, did there come a time when you learned your car had caught fire?
Yes.
How did you learn that your car had caught fire?
My dog's babysitter called me in the morning.
Approximately what time did you receive that phone call?
6:30, 7 a.m.
What was your understanding of where your dog's babysitter was located when she called you?
at my house.
Was it your understanding that your dog's babysitter was telling you what was happening in real time?
Yes.
And what did your dog's babysitter say to you about what she saw?
She told me my car was on fire.
Was anyone else present at your house at the time?
No.
Where were you?
I was at my ex-girlfriend's sister's house.
Approximately how far away from your house were you?
Like 45 minutes or something like that.
Where was your car at the time your babysitter called?
In the driveway.
Was it in the driveway of the same home at 8925 Hollywood Hills Road?
Yes.
After you received this phone call from your dog's babysitter, what did you do?
I immediately went to my house.
Miss Foster, can we please pull up for identification for the court, the witness, and the parties, government exhibits 3F101 and 3F102? I'm going to show you 6 total pictures, Mr. Mascotti.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize what's depicted in those pictures?
Yeah.
What is it?
My Porsche.
Miss Foster, can you please pull up government exhibits 3F103 and 3F104? Do you recognize what's depicted in these photos, Mr. Mascotti?
Yes.
What is it?
The damage from a Molotov cocktail in my Porsche.
Is that your car?
Huh?
This is your car.
Yes.
Miss Foster, can you now please pull up for identification government exhibits 3F105 and 3F108? Mr. Mascotti, do you recognize what's depicted in those photographs?
Yes.
Is that your car?
Yes.
The government offers government exhibits 3F101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 108.
No opposition, Your Honor.
Those exhibits will be admitted.
Can you publish those exhibits to the jury? Mr. Mascotti, when did you receive these photos?
While I was on my way to my house.
Who sent these photos to you?
My friend Chip.
Who's Chip?
He's a good friend and collaborator.
Why did Chip send you photographs of your car?
He was closer to my house and I wanted to see the damage that had been done.
Did you ask Chip to go take photos for you?
Yes.
So I want to focus on these 2 photographs. First, on the one on the left. Can you describe what's depicted in the photograph on the left?
It looks like the top of my Porsche was cut open and that's where they inserted the Molotov cocktail.
And the photograph on the right. From what angle is that photograph taken?
It looks
I think Diddy definitely needs to be charged for this crime he did.
like that's from the passenger side looking up the
Even though they can't prove it was him, we know it's him.
On the right-hand side of the
Allegedly.
photograph, what is the hole? Is that the same hole in the roof you can see on the photograph on the left, 3F101?
Yes.
Can you take these down, Ms. Foster, and pull up 3F103 and 3F105 side by side? Mr. Mascotti, starting with the one on the left, can you please describe what we are seeing in government exhibit 3F103?
That's the door to the driver's side. Smoke damage.
Then what is depicted in the photograph on the right?
That's the hole in my roof.
Can you take those down, Ms. Foster, and pull up government exhibit 3F104 and 3F108? What's depicted in these 2 images?
The damage to the driver's side.
You mentioned a Molotov cocktail earlier.
Yeah.
What's a Molotov cocktail, to your understanding?
It's, would you say, explosive or something like that? I guess it's a bottle with some type of like inflammatory liquid inside and a cloth that you light on fire and it ignites.
Did you eventually get to your home on the day of the car fire?
Yeah.
What did you see when you arrived home?
Just the damage. I saw the Molotov cocktail, yeah.
Are these photographs that we just looked at similar to what you saw when you arrived home?
Yeah.
When you say, I saw the Molotov cocktail, what did you see?
The bottle, and it was kind of just burnt up.
Was any law enforcement present when you arrived here to your home?
Yes.
Did you speak to law enforcement that day?
Yes.
Did you make a report?
Yes.
With respect to your car, was your car able to be repaired after the fire?
No.
And when you said you saw the bottle for the Molotov cocktail when you returned home, where was that bottle?
On the ground.
Was it on the ground inside or outside of your vehicle?
Outside of the vehicle.
Was it near the vehicle?
Huh?
Where was it in relation to the vehicle?
It was near the vehicle.
What was your understanding of where the Molotov cocktail was found by law enforcement?
In the driver's seat.
I think you mentioned this, but was your car able to be repaired?
No.
What was your reaction to your car being set on fire?
What the
Objection.
That's overruled. Ms. Johnson, we're going to take a 5-minute break whenever you are ready in the next couple of minutes. When you find a good landing place.
I'm about to move on to a different topic, so I think this may be a good landing place.
Very good. Members of the jury, we are going to take a short recess and we will be back in 10 minutes. So around 11:22 or thereabouts. All rise.
I love this AI.
Ms. Johnson, you may proceed when ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr.
It's
Mascotti,
amazing.
before we took the break, we were talking about the day your car was set on fire. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Just 2 additional questions about that day. Ms. Foster, could you please pull up what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 3F105? Mr. Mezcudi, was the damage depicted in Government Exhibit 3F105 present on your vehicle before you got the call from the dog sitter you described earlier?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'll strike the question. The last time you saw your car prior to the phone call you got from the dog sitter, did your car look like this?
No,
What was your understanding of whether this was accidental or intentional?
it was intentional.
Ms. Foster, can you please pull up Government Exhibit 3F103? Mr. Mezcudi, did the door of your car look like this before you got the call from your dog sitter that there was a fire in your car?
No,
Was it your understanding that this damage was accidental or intentional?
intentional.
You can take that down now, Ms. Foster. When was the last time you saw Ms. Ventura?
2012,
Where did you see her?
at the Soho house.
When did you see Ms. Ventura at the Soho house relative to the day your car was on fire?
Couple of days later,
Why were you at the Soho house?
I reached out to Sean Combs after my car had caught fire and, finally told him that we needed to meet up to talk, He had been wanting to talk to me, so after the fire, I was like, this is getting out of hand. I need to talk to him.
Why was it Mr. Combs you reached out to after the fire?
Because I knew he had something to do with it.
Your Honor, can we have a sidebar?
Is there an objection?
Objection.
Objection is sustained. The jury should disregard the witness's last answer. Ms. Johnson, you may ask your next question.
Mr. Mezcudi, who, if anyone, helped arrange the meeting at the Soho house?
This man named D-Rock and my manager, Dennis Cummings.
Who is D-Rock, if you know?
I don't know exactly what he does for Mr. Combs, but I guess he was like security or somebody.
Do you have an
I wanted to hear from D-Rock.
understanding that he worked for Mr. Combs?
Yes,
Where at Soho house was the meeting held?
it was held. The rooms are not there anymore, but they used to have like meeting rooms on the first floor.
In which city was the meeting held?
Hollywood.
In Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Can you describe what happened when you arrived at the Soho house?
Yeah, I walked in and I met D-Rock. He was escorting me into the room, and then I got to the room. It was one wall, was all window, and Sean Combs was standing there staring out the window with his hands behind his back like a Marvel supervillain. Yeah, it was just me and him in the room, no security, nobody.
Was Miss Ventura present when you initially arrived at the meeting?
No,
What happened when it was just you and Mr. Combs in the room at the Soho house?
we discussed, pretty much the whole story about how me and Cassie first started to date, to what it was, to how it ended. And his whole point was, we were homies, that was my girl. I let him know that, she told me they were broken up, and I took her word for it. Yeah,
What was Mr. Combs' demeanor during this meeting?
very calm. He kept offering me water. He offered me water twice.
What was your reaction to his demeanor?
It was very off-putting. It was weird that he was so calm.
You mentioned that Miss Ventura wasn't present when you first arrived.
No.
Did that change?
Yes, she eventually came.
And how did you react when Miss Ventura arrived?
I was upset to find out that she had kind of went back to him.
What did Miss Ventura do when she arrived?
She pretty much kind of explained that we fell in love and things just happened and
I believe you testified to this earlier, but how soon was the meeting at the Soho house in relation to the day your car was on fire?
I think it was like the next day.
At the same time, did you have conflicts with anyone else?
No.
Can you describe how the meeting with Mr. Combs ended at the Soho house?
Yeah, we stood up, shook hands, and as I was shaking his hand, I said, "What are we going to do about my car?" I made sure to ask him right when our hands were clasped together, where he couldn't run away, and I could look him square in his eyes. And he looked right back at me, very cold stare, and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I said, "Okay." I took my hand from his, and he said, "Wait, I thought we were cool. Is there a problem?" I was like, "You said you didn't burn my car, right? You said that's your word." He said, "Yeah." I was like, "That's it."
When Mr. Combs looked at you and said, "I don't know what you were talking about" when you asked about your car, what was his tone of voice?
Very calm.
After this meeting, were there any other break-ins at your home?
No.
And after this meeting, was your car ever set on fire again?
No.
Have you seen Mr. Combs since that Soho house meeting?
Yes.
Approximately when did you see Mr. Combs?
A couple of years later at the Soho house again.
Can you describe what happened when you saw him at the Soho house a few years later?
Yeah, he was with his daughter and he pulled me to the side and basically apologized for everything. He said, and I quote, "Man, I just want to apologize for everything and all that."
Between the break-in and the car fire and Mr. Combs' apology a few years later, did you have any other conflicts with Mr. Combs in that interim time period?
No, After I got the apology, I kind of found peace with it because I thought, that was the last thing I was expecting to get from him.
Your Honor, may I have one moment?
You may.
No further questions at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Okay, so that was the first part of Kid Cudi's testimony. I'm sure we'll probably get another one. They just, Law and Crime releases them as like randomly. So we did opening, defense statements, and prosecution statements yesterday. Make sure you go back and watch that live. I have a whole live just on AI, no documents, no updates, just AI. But in last week's Diddy updates, we watched a lot of it. So after the updates, let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah. So she was cheating on Diddy, right? With Kid Cudi? Oh gosh. Yeah, that's wild. Hello, Benitas. Yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe the testimony we just got through. Chance with who? With Cassie? No. Yeah, I don't know. That was really, really insane. I think what Jane testified to, I think that's critical. But I want to hear from K Quorum too, and D-Rock, which I don't know if we will, but we'll see. Tomorrow is day 20. I don't know that I'll be back tomorrow for Diddy unless there's enough content for me to do a live on it. I could do a short live, but we are following up on Karen Reed. I have another deep dive, so please make sure you subscribe, hit the like button on your way out. We don't just cover Diddy. We don't just cover Karen Reed. It's all I've been covering in the last few weeks because it's so out there. But I usually do deep dives into true crime cases. So get court paperwork and do all of that. So if you're new here, thank you. We got a lot of new subs and we do Melly After Dark. So make sure you become a member to participate in those or watch those if you don't make it to the lives. I appreciate you guys for being here, and thanks to all the super chats and supporters. I hope you guys have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.